After the first speaker, we will continue with the order, the address from the chairman, the address from our girls, and so on. But at this point, I want us to commence by taking the national anthem, followed by the icon item. Hello.
Okay, we can start, please. Can we start?
Yeah, we can start.
Okay.
We are starting right away with the national anthem, followed by the icon item. Thereafter, we introduce our speaker. IT, please. Mr. Abe.
Okay, I'm starting right away.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, you are a participant. Just mute yourself permanently. Mr. Abe, what is the problem with the icon and the national anthem? Okay, Dikiroko.
Yes.
Can we just use our mouth to sing national anthem and continue? We can't afford to waste more time. This is 9 minutes after 2. It's not in our character to do this. So we can start like that, please.
attain our constant values that we share through all ages be sustained. Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, noble like and your accuracy we cherish. We uphold your integrity.
Thank you. Thank you. We move on. The chairman, Professor, are you there?
Yes, I can give my welcome address now.
Okay, not yet, please.
Okay.
Okay. So if you are there, we want to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Hanyara. And we may just listen to the profile of Dr. Hanyara.
Okay, Deacon, hold on. Let me quickly give my welcome address, then you can go. Every other formatting will come later. Is that okay by you?
Go ahead.
Okay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as at this time, we have about 84 participants on board. We want to say thank you for joining us, and all our people out there. Thank you. The immediate past chairman of our district, the person of Elder Gbagada, thank you so much for being here. Executive of our district, facilitator. I've seen all our facilitators already on ground. Thank you for making time to be part of this historic event. There's no saying that training and retraining is the hallmark of a professional of our nature, and our ability to continue to do well for our member speak to the fact that their skills need to be upgraded all the time. Hence, the decision of the ESCO to have a special training for our member in practice. But because of the fact that in Nigeria, things can change. Some people that are not in practice are not coming to practice for one reason or the other. We have allowed others that are not in practice to also be part of this training. However, we want to believe that at the end of the day, we will have enough that can help us to continue to do our business of accounting in a manner that will bring profitability and then create a kind of sustainable development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to turn this to a paper presentation. I will allow the anchor and the chairman of the forum of fame of this district to continue with this. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. At the appropriate time, please, because we are running out of time, we'll be introducing the chairman of the day, of the session. But permit me to introduce to us the first paper presenter in the person of Dr. Hanyara. Dr. Hanyara have over 3 decades of industry experience, of which more than 20 years have been in financial reporting and management, accounting standard setting, and financial reporting regulation at the Financial Reporting Council. He's a former acting executive secretary stroke CEO of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, currently the director, Head Directorate of Public Sector Accounting Standard. Dr. Hanyara has played several leadership roles, which include serving as a member of Inter-Ministerial Committee on National Chart of Accounts for Nigeria, as well as member of the IFSA Gap Analysis Committee. He also served as the secretary to the National Stakeholder Committee on the roadmap to the adoption of International Financial Reporting Standard in Nigeria. In that committee, the committee prepared the roadmap report which was approved by the Federal Executive Council under President Goodluck Jonathan. Dr. Anyara is a member of several professional bodies, among which are Fellow, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Fellow, Association of Forensic Accounting Researcher, Certified National Accountant, and Nigeria Institute of Management. He is a regular speaker in various fora, especially on financial reporting regulation and the adoption of IFRS, IFSA, anti-money laundering, corporate governance, sustainability reporting, and other financial reports related topics. He has facilitated on anti-money laundering at GIVA program in Gambia, IFRS transition in London and Ghana, corporate governance at board induction program at NICOM, PENCOM, Royal Exchange Insurance, NDDC. Currently, Mr. Anyara became the technical advisor for Christopher A. Young International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board member in January 2022. Mr. Anyara is a first-class honor degree graduate from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He also has MSc Accounting from same university and MBA Accounting from University of Port Harcourt. He holds a PhD in Accounting from Bako University, Ile-Soremo, Ogun State. He has attended the Contemporary Continuing Education Program at Harvard Business School, the London School of Economics, the Booth Business School, University of Chicago, Chicago and Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. Please join me as we welcome Dr. Anyara for his paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the anchor, and thank you, distinguished participants. Due respect to senior colleagues, the chairman of the district, very good friend and the pest setter, Professor Godwin Yedokun, for you. I respect you. Your speed is something I will be able to match, but whoever gives you the help to keep on doing what you're doing. My fellow colleagues, the chairman made comments for me very apt and critical, and I will amplify that, and that is the need to continue in learning and development is very, very key. And again, I want to apologize for breaching all protocol. This program was 10 o'clock. It was my own fault. We have an international meeting by 3 p.m., which will assist Nigeria in the implementation of sustainability reporting standards. And we are looking towards auditing by with the Chief Executive Officer of Extensible Business Reporting Language, SBRL, that will assist Nigeria in developing the taxonomy for sustainability and IFRS. So I may not be in my best as I'll be rushing to finish the presentation of the meeting by 3 o'clock. My sincere apologies. It's a program I've so much cherished to be. And having said that, I was mandated to talk about the audit regulation 2020 and modern audit practitioners. Is a current topical topic. Is something that we cannot stop saying. Is something that we have to start, and therefore requires a lot of discussion. And we'll be looking at it with introduction, flip through the art, which I know you know too well. We'll also look at why FRC is embarking on such exercise of external auditors, try to draw attention to the provisions of the statutory law establishing the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, which I know you know too well, but for those who don't know, will be a kind of an eye-opener, but for those who know too well, it's reminding us what we know. So we'll look at the implication, look at supply chain, and by God's grace, we'll conclude. I usually like starting my presentation with preambles. One is one that we are having here, and I took it from Center for Audit Quality in June 2021. If you look at it, all the things were for public, the company, the play worldwide, all the things enhancing credibility, enhancing better communication to stakeholders. That is the major role auditors play. And auditors, they are one professional I have their respect for. They are the only professional that you can hire to do a job for you, and they will not do it to favor you. They will do it for public interest. If you hire a lawyer, for instance, you have a criminal case, and you go to court, the lawyer do all, including looking for loopholes to be able to get you from that. If you hire a medical doctor will battle to your life and tell you whatever it is to make you live. But an auditor, by profession, but ethical demand, is supposed to say it the way it is, not say to favor A, saying to favor B. Why I sincerely have a lot of respect. And for you to be able to do it, you have to live above sentiment. You have to be very objective. You have to be very diligent. And in all, it will bring especially independence from you, independence of mind, independence of pocket, independence of everything, complete independence, according to Larry Sayer, for you to be able to do it, and not just being independent. Practical independence can only be absolutely essential for one's performance. And that, if you look at that, you will see other issues related to it, and the managers of other people's resources, of course, will require certain financial vigilance. These days where people lack trust, these days where people rarely believe in what makes it a very critical point where managers are actually after the resources or the access of others. In that, there is recent development. We keep trying the much we can to ensure that the professionals do what they ought to do. And I look at these three critical areas as recent developments impacting corporate entities in Nigeria. Number one is the National Code of Corporate Governance 2018, which was issued on January 15, 2019. If you look at that code, we in Financial Reporting Council tried to change corporate behavior. We listed practices and principles that we expect corporate, when they imbibe it, will change the way our managers are done. The code has about 27 principles, a broad base, telling you can do this, you can do that. It has about 230 something practices in each principle. This is a board management meeting, you can do this, you can do that. That significantly changed a lot of things in the corporate Nigeria. As we were battling to grab that, in 2020, CAMA was amended, and we have a new CAMA 2020. And that also affected a lot of corporate behavior. What are we doing in all this is to ensure that investors are properly protected. Coming to the area where is the issue we are discussing today. The other regulations also came out, though we call it 2020, that was when it was approved, but January 25, 2021, we got the ministerial approval. And that focuses on changing the professional behavior, trying to regulate a hitherto unregulated, I stand to be corrected, profession. And of course, we know that public oversight, independent public oversight body is the end thing in our and the audit regulation articulated a lot of that will flourish on data and the data of statements, which have been critical elements for accuracy, transparency, and ability. Therefore, investors make decisions which you and I based on these financial statements. If any statement is issued without auditor's opinion, such statement cannot be taken, no matter how factual, no matter how correct. People are critical. The profession you and I are engaging is very critical that an independent third party to provide assurance
I think we lost Mr. Hello? Dr. Hanyara.
Yeah, it's no longer on the call. I think network has thrown him out.
Okay.
Let's wait. He will get. I'm sure he will log back.
He is actually on the call, but he did not sign in with voice. So use this opportunity to introduce the chairman of session while he's joining us, please.
Okay, while we await the rejoining of our paper presenter, I quickly want to introduce to us the chairman of the section, in person of Elder Gbenga Omidiji, MSc, ACTI, FCA. Mr. Gbenga Omidiji was born in Ilesha, Osun State, in the mid-1960s. He attended Anglican Grammar School, Okemesi, Ekiti State. He thereafter proceeded to the Polytechnic Ibadan, where he banked his National Diploma in Banking in 1986. He had his higher National Diploma in Accountancy at Federal Polytechnic Ilaro, Ogun State in 1991. Master in Business Administration, MBA from Federal University of Technology, Akure in 2006. He also bagged first-class honor degree, BSc, and Masters of Science, MSc degree in accounting from Babcock University, Ilesha, Ogun State, and almost completing his doctoral degree, PhD in accounting from Babcock University. Mr. Gbenga is a member of many professional bodies, which include Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Chartered Institute of Marketing of Nigeria, and many more. Mr. LGM Gbenga Omidiji is a pioneer chairman of Ilupeju, Gbagada and District Society, and pioneer member of Joint Mind International, and served as its pioneer controller of affairs in 1990. He's currently the Family Support System Board Chairman of Joint Mind. Also, Mr. Omidiji is a council member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. He loves movies, novels, good food, and chess. Join me in welcoming our chairman of the session, Elder Gbenga Omidiji. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Well, we have already started the program. I once again welcome you all. Well, I think, Chairman, please place a call through to Doctor
so that he can be adequately guided. He just has less than 30 minutes to spend with us before he joins another meeting, and we want to utilize. Okay. I'm back, sir. Apologies. I was apologizing.
Okay.
They took lights and the internet went off. Apologies, sir.
Okay.
You're welcome back. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. That's Nigeria. So sorry. Now, but please, can you restore my right to share? Otherwise, you can share. Let me quickly, like the chairman said, Chairman, my sincere appreciation. But I'm no more. I can't share. You can share the paper.
You have been restored. You have been restored.
You can do so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. My sincere apologies, please. So this is so I was describing the reasons why we are here. Investors need credible information, and that information comes from independent third party to provide assurance on the information companies are saying. So in all, it requires a little information to know, like David Weber mentioned, to digest fraud and the issues related to it. Financial reporting chain, in my analysis, can be properly looked at as people and processes, and can also further be divided into internal and external. In financial reporting supply chain, the internal is made up of those approval level who are board of directors, audit committee members, the chief executive officer, the chief finance officer, the internal audit. At times, we also have internal control, separate from internal audit. Then we have the preparers. These are the people involved as part and parcel of parties in financial reporting supply chain. While the external, you will see that I highlighted auditors in yellow and green. I didn't want to put red in auditors. So we have auditors who provide opinion. We have actuaries, we have valuers. We also have regulators like FRC, depending on the industry you are, and we also have other stakeholders, users, analysts who are part and parcel of the financial reporting chain. If you see in all this, as accountants, if anything goes wrong with any financial statement or a company, they will not remember that, for instance, we have actuaries, we have valuers who give information to the accountant to prepare the financial statement. It's only the accountant that is seen when things go wrong. And that is why we have to consciously let all the stakeholders know, all the parties involved in financial reporting. The processes I adopted from International Accounting Standards Committee Foundation listed the processes and participants like I've mentioned. Of course, business operations will give you the basis to generate the data to go for the financial reporting, and of course, both internal and external. And we have to do it based on, that's why we want to hold this meeting with the CEO of XBRL International. The journal has to be based on acceptable global taxonomies. And of course, we look at different gaps. Nigeria is using international financial reporting standards, and we try to match the gaps, while the participants, like I've said, entities, the partners, of course, the internal, external, they juggled all of them here to make the processes. In order to get this right, we now have a law which you all are aware, the FRC Act number 6 of 2011, that is currently undergoing some amendments at the National Assembly. And I am pleased to inform all of us that November 30th, the Senate passed the amended FRC bill, and we expect a concurrence at the Federal House of Representatives, and we believe in a short while there will be a lot of slight changes to enable effective operation. One of the expected changes is in the number of membership of the governing board. We at FRC and the DEM board felt that the council is over, how will I put it, over the board membership of 23 was very unwieldy and too many. And another issue we raised that the committee handled, the committee, I mean, is the Senate Committee on Trade and Investment, when they paid a courtesy visit to FRC, they noted that some of the organizations we provide oversight function on are on the board of FRC, and that gives seeming confusion and independence impairment. If your boss is on your board and you discover some irregularities, how board will you be able to tell your boss that this and this and that happened? So the objective and scope, as we know, of course, we have to ensure accuracy and reliability of financial information pursuant to various laws and regulations currently in existence. Again, we have to harmonize activities of relevant professional and regulatory bodies relating to corporate governance and financial reporting. We need to note this. As professional accountants, there have been questions which we'll talk about immediately as to why FRS is doing this. They are doing it based on the provisions of the Act. They are not going beyond that. The scope of the law covers these major areas: accounting, auditing, corporate evaluation, actuarial, as well as corporate governance. There has been a very critical issue, and that is the coverage, the purview. That is public interest entity. A lot of people misunderstand the definition. And thank God I will show you a publication we made recently. We were taken to court last time by an entity, and the court delivered judgment against us. But last month, we've been able to rescue the judgment also. And that hinges on the definition of public interest entity. Please note, it is government organizations, quoted and unquoted companies, and other private companies that are required to file returns with regulatory authorities beyond CAC and FIRS. FIRS and CAC are seen as the primary. But if you have a regulatory body like you file with a CAC, you file with FIRS, and for instance, NICOM or CBN or NCC or any other district, it means that you are under the purview of Financial Reporting Council. And the definition also talks about filing and returns. It didn't say filing must be financial statement. Anyway, that would be left for lawyers to talk about. We promote trade and investment, and we ensure accountability for national policy. You know the directorates, we have Directorate of Accounting Standard, Public Sector, Private Sector. We have Directorate of Auditing Practice Standard, which my colleague will be talking shortly after. And we also have Actuarial Standard Valuation. The Directorate of Inspection and Monitoring have been liaising with a lot of you guys in audit, and also we have Corporate Governance Directorate. So the oversight is what you are seeing on the screen. We deal with accounting, auditing, of course, practice review, and quality assurance, which is the base for the audit regulation. Of course, the FRC oversight powers, according to the sections, you will see them are listed in the sections here. For instance, to develop or liaise with relevant professional bodies, you see it in section 26, section 8, with at least deal with the extant laws now until the amendment is finally coming to law. There, as specified here, then of course, for external auditors and for auditing standards, the law says we should promote, to ensure that what is stated is actually there. And in all, what we are talking about is to ensure that everything about financial reporting in Nigeria is as we can compare internationally without Nigeria having what we call the third country audit. For instance, in UK has a law in the Company Act that says any jurisdiction that is not part of international forum of independent audit regulators, that the financial statements emanating from such jurisdiction will be subjected to further audit. And that's what they call third country audit. That is what the audit regulation tries to achieve to ensure that Nigeria becomes one of the countries that will have what we call reciprocity. That is, the UK will accept our audit as it is, and will also accept the audit from UK as it is. The reliability of financial statements is enhanced by assurance from an independent and expert third party. That is the basis of the audit regulation. We have to improve independence. We've done a lot in trying to get everybody to be on the same page. And of course, the lack of audit regulation, I mean, it's very obvious. So it is that there is inability to ensure and adopt ethical standards by members of the supply chain, and of course, difficulty in identifying unwholesome professional conduct. I will give you just one instance. In our office, we've got a financial statement that an auditor said it complies with, not financial reporting standard, not anything, in line with CITL, an audit report. My colleague will explain further. We invited the guy. How can a professional accountant do such a thing? And of course, in getting this audit regulation, FRC did not sit there to do that. We engage all these, like you've seen, and their contributions yielded what we have today. And of course, it passed through all the necessary processes before it became a regulation. In simple terms, the audit regulation 2020 has 7 parts, 34 regulations, which we believe the professionals will get themselves acquainted with and ensure effective compliance. About the scope is there. The only thing we excluded the Office of the Auditor General because they are governed by Section 85, subsection 6, and Section 125, subsection 6 of the Nigerian Constitution. Of course, wherever there's a conflict between any law and the Constitution is supreme. That's why what we call the Supreme Audit Institution of Nigeria, they are excluded. However, we need to note something, that the auditors of government are excluded does not mean you and I, that public sector entities engage to audit them. You are not excluded. You are covered by this regulation. So it requires registration. It gives requirements for registration. And that is where we are. Issues of mandatory audit frame rotation, issue of the responsibilities of the auditors, the organization of audit work. Before you could do these things, but when you realize that there's somebody who can come in and check this documentation, you become more careful and do the job the way that's supposed to be done. We have enforcement angle, and again, please, my colleagues, Whenever FRC or regulator talks, we only see it from the point of sanction. No. If you get your job done properly, nobody will sanction you. Nobody will penalize you. Sanction and penalties are for correction. They are not, nobody sets out that there will be sanctioning or penalizing, but where it is necessary, we'll be able to do that. Part 6 of the regulation talks about audit committee. This is a critical party in financial reporting supply chain that don't even know their responsibility. Audit committee members, I have facilitated at programs where you see, God knows I'm not deranging anybody, but let's talk about it. If you have an impaired person, a blind person, being the chairman of an audit committee, how would the person verify? How would the person check? How would the person know what is stated in the report? And the sign off. When companies do that, because we are not litigious, they go scot-free. But the audit regulation is holding them responsible for that. And of course, we have transitional period. That's why since this year, we've been trying to engage everybody to ensure that we do what we need to do. Well, it's a document that is on our website. You need to go through it. It's a document that you need to read, like you are reading your Bible if you are an auditor, so as not to fall foul of any of them. So they stated the powers, they stated how execution will be done, and of course the audit reporting timeline, and of course document retention. How many years you have to keep your working paper in the event that you may be called upon to talk about or to show it. The essence of this is to ensure quality. And the law establishing FRC gave FRC that there should be an annual quality review or inspection, if you like, of all audit firms that are auditors that audit more than 20 public interest entities. While other auditors or audit firms may be inspected or reviewed after 3 years. In such circumstances, please let us mute our minds, please, our audios. We are getting a lot of distractions. Samuel Odedbumi, kindly mute. Oluwashemi, kindly mute.
Extension here is for 2 years.
Oluwashina, kindly mute. Thank you. Okay, so we go further. Two other better documents required for everyone's attention is operational guidelines for inspection and monitoring. We want everybody to know what we'll be expecting. We want everybody to know what will be there. It's not like, sorry, without deranging, it's not like some security agencies that will be hiding at the corner to expect you to make mistake and they will jump. No, we're letting you know this is where the road leads you. This is for proportionality, clarity, so that you will know all the. We also have what we call instrument of delegation. FRC believe they cannot do this alone. There is a memorandum of understanding which we are signing with the two professional accounting organizations, ICANN and AMAN, to be able to help us conduct quality review for especially Me and Me Co Limited. For the team, we have a team, we have an enforcement committee, we have, of course, penalty. The penalty may lead to suspension of registration, and once suspension of registration is done, you can't carry out any audit. Of course, the worst is leading to withdrawal. And in all these things, we believe that we all are there. What are our plans? Of course, our plans, we all know, is to continually engage all professionals. Then start registration. That's why I sincerely appreciate the chairman and the district for this. And also our great institute, they have continually brought these audit regulations to the front burner. And I think it is in order not to allow us make any mistake. This is the plan we have, which we have religiously adopted. And of course, we have categorized firms, which we have made public. We have commenced registration. And we have also selected audit quality firms to be able to review. We are partnering with ISBA, we are partnering with IFIA and IFAC in this respect. This is one publication we made recently in April. We noted that professional auditors were stating that the audit is carried out all manner of statements. So the council came up and said that in expressing your framework, these are the only frameworks allowed in Nigeria, which FRC has adopted. So external auditors and other assurance providers, we are required to strictly comply with this standard. And any reference to any other standards or framework in audit that we are bringing out in public wouldn't be accepted. This is a classification for to get another one. This is a public notice letting people know about the judgment I mentioned. This, we got it on 28 November between IHS and Nigeria, especially in filing financial statements and paying the necessary levies. So in all, we cannot do it alone. Like I said, we need collaboration with everybody. We need to harmonize. We need to collaborate. We need to do things that will make Nigeria revered and recorded as one of the issues. Implications, they are very apparent and they are very enormous. But again, we should not be afraid. Since if we do things the way we ought to do it, I don't see the audit regulation to be an issue. The only thing, like I said, it requires registration, and we have commented that. Earlier on, we gave a deadline, and I think without letting the cat, we have some representation from our great institute and other stakeholders requesting for extension of the registration deadline. And I think our office have made a notification to that. Of course, all the ethical codes are there. Internal compliance mechanism is going to be focused more so as to ensure that what comes out at the end will be a very credible one. We wouldn't run away from the fact that there are financial burdens. Most of us have not registered, and registration requires a token. And that token will, no matter how it is an increased financial burden, which for me is a necessity to get things done the way they ought to be done. Of course, another implication that makes modern practitioners is that firms and individuals will be subject to regular FRC practice review. For a modern practitioner, you have to be thorough in your documentation. You wouldn't leave anything for chance. For a modern practitioner, to training of your staff would be very, very pertinent for you. And of course, in all those, may increase the administrative body. Of course, there will be a microscope for us to be scrutinizing all the audit relationship. I remember one case in UK where an audit firm was penalized because a partner had a romantic relationship with the CFO of their client. And the FRC UK saw that as an improper behavior. That's what I mean by more scrutiny of the audit processes and client relationship. And they believe that there's no way there wouldn't be impairment of independence. And the partner was penalized, and the firm was also penalized for allowing that. If we look into all those things in Nigeria, I'm too sure those of you who are here will show that FRC is going beyond its purview. But again, look at it holistically. Whatever that will impair will affect the credibility of the report is our focus. So we are working to have cross-reporting of professional bodies. We need to ensure that information we have is synchronized and up to date with all relevant societies. And we'll do this to ensure that we do the best we can. Of course, there is implication for technical capacity. You cannot give what you don't have. So you need to up your answers. You need to read more. You need to develop more. I was at a program on Tuesday. I was telling the auditors in government entities that one problem we have is once we qualify as professional accountants, we rarely read. Most of us look for positions where we will approve vouchers so that something can come. The accounting we know is changing on, in fact, hourly basis. And for us to keep abreast, we need to follow the developments. We need to read. And that's why people like Professor Yedekun and the numerous books and articles he's writing should be a focus where we will all look at. And look at the benefits. It is a win-win for all of us. If there are improved quality of financial reporting in Nigeria, it is a base for direct foreign investment. People will know that what we are saying is what it is. It is opportunity for foreign people. I mean, here the expectation is there. We are moving from not the business and going to no longer the business as usual. So the demand will be for service excellence. The demand will be for engagement of the right people. The demand will be for having a conducive environment. So that's why we are moving from where we are, and we are going to a more spacious, a more friendly, a more accommodating environment. And I think by the time we do it, we'll have a better Nigeria. I have some cases which most of you already know. And why I'm bringing it up here is that most times we look at the big four as flawless, as not having any fault. We have, even in Nigeria, even as we speak, we have penalized them. The only issue we have is that we are not making their penalties public. But going forward, the FRC has resolved that all these firms that are penalized will be brought to the front burner and the stakeholders will get to know. So permit me to skip these, you have it in the paper, some of the penalties, some of these audit firms have faced in other jurisdictions, including where one of the firms was barred from undertaking any government audit in South Africa. These are examples of what the regulator is expected to do. In all, by the time we're able to do that, I see us doing what we ought to do. In my conclusion, with effective collaboration for all the parties involved in the financial reporting supply chain, the implementation of the audit regulation is expected to be seamless and less burdensome. It's when you don't do what you ought to do that you have issues. And in that order, we will sustain credible financial reporting regime in Nigeria. I leave you this quote. We have to improve is to change.
They can wrap up.
Yes, sir.
I think he has concluded, so the chairman can come up.
The chairman, sir. Chairman.
The presenter probably, yes, I think because I've been hearing battery low, so I want to believe that probably the battery has finally given up. And of course, we must all agree that he was already getting to the conclusion of the meeting because it has 3 o'clock, and that's why we had to adjust the program to be able to accommodate his timing. Since he's no longer with us right now, I want to dispense with the question and answer session or pending.
He's back, sir.
Our participants
He's
to
back, sir.
send their questions. I drop it on the comment section in the chat box.
My chairman,
Yes,
sir.
please.
His colleague
Yes,
is
please.
on board. So the question can be answered by this Amo. They are both.
He's even back. Doctor is
okay.
back, sir.
Okay.
Doctor is here, sir.
So probably need to take 2 questions.
Sorry, sir. It's breaking. I couldn't hear anything, sir.
The network
I was thinking
chairman's
it's
side
from
is
my
okay.
internet. I was thinking it's from my internet. His internet is bad. It's not coming
Okay,
out.
Our own chairman, I think his internet is bad now. Dr. Ayala, do you want to say something on your conclusion? Because we want you to go on time.
I'm okay. You have Amarodia, who is the head of the directorate. So
Okay,
he has
fine.
everything to say. So that we can move on.
So that I can join the
other
other meeting.
minutes after 3.
Okay, that's not fair,
we
sir.
need to move on. Thank you very much. Doctor, please.
Maybe you tell me
we
that we have a meeting with SBRL people at this 3 o'clock.
We give you a chance to make it.
Hello.
Chairman, sir. Chairman.
Dikin Rocco, please, can you champion the question and answer until
Thank you, Professor. I think the network from where our chairman of the section is connecting is not favorable presently. He's still talking, but we cannot hear him. We want to proceed with a second presentation.
Can you talk?
Yes, I'm with you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you. Can we proceed with the second paper
Mr.
presenter?
Tosin.
Hello, Professor, I'm with you.
Can you hear
Professor,
me?
I can hear you.
This is the chairman. Can you
We
hear
can
me?
hear you. We can hear you, sir. We can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think the network is trying to play some games.
Yes, it's better now.
But
yes,
I think since Mr. Amo is presenting another paper,
yes.
I think we just wait and take the question and answer session together at the end of his presentation. We are taking the opening remarks from the chairman so that before we started, I don't know if institute, who is a founding pillar of the district, is on call so that he can give his commentary directly. Let me check if he's on call. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I am asking if...
You are cracking, sir.
Okay, please, let's go straight to the second paper.
Exactly, sir.
So that we can come back later to take the question and answer session.
Exactly, sir. So they should continue. Question will come later. Dikin Rocco, please introduce the second
Dikin
paper.
Rocco, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. It's my pleasure to present to us the second paper presenter in person of Mr. Adeshola Amao, FCA. Mr. Adeshola Amao, FCA, is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, a certified member of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner, Austin, Texas, and an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, among others. He joined the service of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria in 2006 under the defunct Nigerian Accounting Standard Board as a senior manager and has risen through the ranks to become deputy director. He has work experience in both auditing, money and capital markets, and financial reporting, which spans over 27 years, 17 of which has been spent in accounting standard setting, investigative financial analysis, and regulatory compliance monitoring at the then Nigeria Accounting Standard Board, now Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. He has served the council for 17 years and currently head the Directorate of Audit Practices Standards. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Adeshola Amao for his presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon. I want to sincerely, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay, please, for better quality of audio, I may switch off my video, please.
That's okay, sir.
All right, let me also share my screen. Okay, I think this is it. Yeah, I want to sincerely thank my Professor Edokun, for the privilege giving me to be part of this program. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of my boss, Dr. Iha Yanyara. Thank you very much, sir. I'm asked to look at the imperative of international standards on audits, on quality management, ISQM1 for auditors. Now, standard. So can you hear me, please? Hello, can you hear me?
We are
Hello?
with you.
Okay, sir. All right, thank you, sir. So we also look at few elements or the elements of ISQM itself. Then what are the practitioner difficulties in implementing the ISQM1, and what are the tips or guide that will assist in doing that? So I believe at the end of these few minutes, we're able to have a better understanding of what is the difference between the ISQC1 and ISQM1, and what are the elements of ISQM1 and thereof. Now, I always put this disclaimer there simply because it's Prof that invited me. So it's not FRC that sent me. So whatever statement I'm making here, I'm on my own. My boss can also, he bear witness. Yes, at a particular level, you could make some policy statement. So I could do that when the need arises. Now, let's quickly look at what ISQC1 was all about. And let me say from today, ISQC1 is no more enforceable. ISQM1 has taken over from today being 15th of December, 2022. So ISQC1 is a quality control standard applicable for firms that perform audits and reviews of financial statements and other assurance and related service engagement. The document was issued in 2004, and I think it was later reviewed in 2009. Now, what are the main objectives of this standard? Because when you look at any standard, be it auditing, be it accounting, you always see the objective. So the objective of this standard is to establish and maintain a system of quality control to provide with reasonable assurance that, I want us to take note of this, that the firm and its personnel comply with professional standards and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. So this is very important. So the standard enables you to set in place the policies and procedures to enable you to work as auditor or assurance service provider and provide reasonable assurance to ensure that you comply, both your firm and the people you use to do the job, comply with professional standards and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. So when it comes to applicable legal and regulatory requirements, that has to do with the jurisdiction where the auditor is operating from. Yes, standard, I think April this year, we've adopted International Standard on Auditing, ISA, and all the pronouncements, we've adopted that. So it becomes a legal requirement in Nigeria. Then there's other pronouncements, like my boss just mentioned, audit regulation is part of the pronouncement made by FRC, and some other FRC Act is also part of it. Because if you look at section 45 of FRC Act, says that if you as an auditor, you are carrying out your job, you perceive that the auditee is not is infringing on particular thing, or the audit must be qualified. He said before that audit is published, you must notify the FRC. So that's a legal requirement of which the auditor must comply with. Now, the other part of the objective is that the auditor, the report you issue at that particular time is appropriate in that circumstances. And I will give you an example of the one that we think at the FRC that we think is not appropriate as we go. Now, what is the imperative of ISQM1? What is the need for it? Why the change? Now, the first thing, like I mentioned earlier, is that ISQC1 was issued in 2004, was reviewed again in 2009. You agree with me that that's how outdated. So many sections, so many standards, ISAs have been changed. And once a particular some ISAs are changed, it could have effect on the policy and procedure that you need to set up as an auditor that guides your activity as far as ISQC1 or ISQM1 is concerned. Now, it's also important to note that ISQC1 is a reactive standard. And that's one of the reasons why they are changing it to ISQM1. ISQM1 focus on, proactively identifying and responding to risk to quality. Now, as expected, auditors are expected that their audit must be of quality. Now, if something is going to affect that quality, what are the risks that could affect your job? What are the risks that could affect your job? So in that case, you need to now come up with, you identify them, and you come up with mitigating substance, things that you are going to do for adventure it, of course. Now, unlike ISQC1, you wait until it happens. When it happens, start running up and down. But before it happens, for example, when it comes to communication, as we're going to see down there, when it comes to communication with either people charged with governance or external people like regulators, if you have issue with regulators, how do you undo it? Don't wait until it happens. Prepare for it, have policy and procedure in place. As soon as it happens, know who and who to call, the letter to write, and now you are going to mitigate the problem. So that is one of the benefits of this ISQM1. Now, ISQM1 is also response to the need to improve firm governance, including culture and tone at the top. So it also addresses some emergence of new trend in the market. Now, also deal with concern from firms placing undue reliance on what they get from the network. Now, for example, some big firms, well, all big firms rather, they have network. They have affiliates in some other countries of the world. And for example, let's say PwC, for example, they have PwC International. Now, they have some policy and procedure as far as ISQC1 is concerned. Even this ISQM1, they would have come up with those system of quality management to implement this ISQM1. They would have passed it down to them. But under the ISQC1, they don't have a choice that to take whatever the network pass on to them. But with ISQM1, you can come up with your own risk system of quality management. You need to come up with your own. It does not mean that you jettison what this is, but if it's not relevant to you, you prepare one that guides your own activity as you work in your own jurisdiction. Now, it also helps because ISQC1 has some difficulties. Some small firms find it difficult to implement. Now, but this is going to help a lot in the sense that it is scalable. You can scale it down to the nature of your firm, the standard of your firm, the size of your firm, and even the nature of the job you do. Now, the three standards that is effective today, that is ISQM1, ISQM2, and ISA 220 that was revised, they became effective today, and they came as a result of series of audit failure, high profile of audit failure that have existed in the recent past. Even it's happening recently. I think a few days ago, my boss sent a message to me. Somebody sent a post to him how a particular firm was sanctioned in Dubai to the tune of $2 million. And he sent it to me. And the question that the person asked him was asking my ES, when are you going to be sanctioning auditors in Nigeria? It's Nigerian that act to, not somebody from Dubai that asked that question. So these three standards came as a result of series of high profile audit failures. Now it's also a response to changing environments and growing market participant need. And lastly, it's have a more robust system of quality management for firms, unlike the ISQC1. Now, these are the three standards. Hello, are you still with me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Yes, we
Go
can.
ahead.
We can.
I can hear you.
I just want to be sure I'm not talking to myself alone. All right. So these are the three standards that were issued, I think, 2020, but effective today, 2022, December 15. ISQM1, ISQM2, and ISA 220. We're going to see the difference between them and what they are all about in a nutshell. But our main concern for this exercise is ISQ M1. Now, these slides try to show the difference between the ISQC1, ISQ M1, 2, and ISA 220. Now, if you look at the first column here, you see ISQC1. Now, it has 6 elements. That's this, these are the difference between, it has 6 elements. Now, it has leadership. That's element number 1. But that element, as is being changed now in ISQM1, include governance. You have governance and leadership. We're going to see what it's all about. But let me say briefly that the governance, in fact, I think FRC UK, not just since 2012, they require firms to have audit governance code, just as you have for code of corporate governance for reporting entities. Audit firms are also expected to have it. I mean, you agree with me that when you pick up some financial statement now, you see the assessment. You see some audit firms carrying out some a board appraiser because they have governance structures, governance unit in the firm, carrying out what we call board appraiser for reporting entities. So why shouldn't they have it as well? So this ISQM1 is requesting that as an entity, as an audit firm, you must have a proper governance structure coupled with a leadership that speak tone from the top. Now, the second one, which is risk assessment process, is not available in ISQC1. That's one of the changes that is coming on board. Now, relevant ethical requirement is the same with ISQM1. Acceptance and continuance is same thing with ISQM1. Then you also have engagement performance, the same with ISQM1. Then you have human resources, also similar, but more robust. More robust. It has more robust system of quality management. Then you have, I think number 7, information and communication. That was not available in ISQC1. And the last one is monitoring. We have monitoring and remediation. Because it's monitoring, you can monitor. But what do you do? For example, when you discover things are not done properly, when you discover that the system of quality control that you have in place are not working well, what do you do? And that is why the ISQM1 is recommending or is adding remediation to it, that you prepare for it now. What do you do when it comes? So you are not caught napping. The way you know what to do, you step into it and you remedy the situation. Now, ISQM2, what is it all about? We've seen that ISQM1, we're going to see more of that as we go on, is about the firm. Is about the firm. Why the ISQM2 is about the engagement quality reviewer, the person that's going to carry out quality reviewer for your firm, because it's expected that as an audit firm, you need to have quality reviewer. Now, if it does not have in your firm, that means you can engage somebody, you can outsource it. Maybe your firm is small, it's Amo and Co. It's only me. Now, but I'm expected to do quality work. Who will now come and assess what I do? To come and carry quality review of my firm. So this ISQM2 is talking about how the appointment and the eligibility of the person that's going to do the job for you, and the performance of that person, then the documentation on engagement quality review. So this is what ISQM2 is talking about. It's talking about the person that is going to do quality review for you in your firm. What must he, how do you employ him, appoint him? What criteria, what do you call it, certification must he have for you to engage him? Now, the last one, which is ISA 220 revised, is specifically talking about the responsibility of the auditor regarding quality management. What are you supposed to do? You've set up a quality management in your firm. The system of quality management is in place. You're brought in to come and review. So now, when you now get engagement, when you get a job to do as an engagement partner What are you supposed to do? What are your responsibilities? This is what ISA 220 is talking about. Now, a little overview of ISQM1. We've said certain things that we need to say about ISQC1. Now, ISQM1, like I said, was issued in 2020, is now replacing, or it has replaced, effective today, ISQC1. Now, it has 8 elements, which we've gone through. We are going to see more in detail. Now, the main objective of ISQM1 is to provide the firm with reasonable assurance that the firm and its personnel fulfill their responsibility in accordance with professional standards and applicable legal and regulatory requirements, and conduct engagements in accordance with the standard and the requirements. You can see that they look similar, but it's more robust in its objective. Now, the last portion of that objective is engagement report. That means the engagement partner, as is the report that is going to issue by the firm is appropriate in that circumstance, or appropriate in that circumstances. Let me give you an example of what they mean here. Let me say, I get this as a case note. It's at the back, at the, towards the end of this slide. FMA was engaged, an audit firm rather was engaged to review, or not to review, to audit company A. Let's say company, the name of the company is Amao. Now, the company has been incurring losses for the past 5-6 years. In fact, to the extent that it's a shareholders fund and is almost eroded, and retained earnings are almost negative. Now, in 2017, the company A sold part of its investment in another company called Company B. The investment was acquired by one of the significant shareholders of Company A. Are you with me, sir? Hello, are you with me?
We are with you, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So the substantial, there's a shareholder who has significant influence. In fact, he has up to 60% of the shares of that company A. Acquired that share, and for that year, that company made a profit of, I think, about 4-point-something billion for ease of analysis. Let's say 4 billion. Now, that happened in December. By February the following year, the investment was sold back to that company A at a loss of 7.4 billion. Now, an auditor that issued a report, let's even put aside the repurchase of that share in the following year in February. Let's look at the very first, the 2017, when that investment was sold. If an auditor says, in our view, the report, we carry out our job and it's true and fair view, according to ISA 550, unrelated party, fair presentation may not be correct at that circumstance. Fair presentation may not be appropriate. The auditor's report may not be appropriate, because according to ISA 550, the profits that will be made that year will increase the contribution. In fact, dividend may be paid, or even when it comes to computing any per share or return on investment of that organization, that profit will be used. Is it fair? The answer is no. It's not a fair percent, because it is a related person that bought it, that bought that investment. So that's what this one is saying. So our auditors should be very careful when you are issuing an opinion, when you are using an audit report, ensure that it's appropriate at that circumstance. Now, let's quickly look at this element. The first one is talking about the firm's risk assessment process. The second one, governance, leadership. Third one, relevant ethical requirements, and the rest. Now, it's very important to know whether ISQM1 is applicable to your firm or not. But because some people are saying my firm is small, so it may not be applicable to me, it's not applicable to me, or I'm not carrying out and audit engagement is not applicable to me. The answer, that may not be true. Let's look at it. It said quality management for firms, that is ISQ M1, quality management for firms that perform audits or review of financial statements or other assurance or related service engagement. So they are require the firm to apply risk-based approach in designing, implementing, and operating the system of quality control for the organization. Now, and it should be done in a way because they are interconnected. Those 8 elements, unlike ISQC1, that they are standing, each of those components are standalone. But this one, they are interconnected and coordinated. It must be done in interconnected and coordinated manner, such that the firm proactively manages the quality of engagement performed by the, that the firm proactively manages the quality of engagement that is performed by the firm. It also requires the firm to transition from policy and procedure that are address standalone elements and required by ISQC1 to an integrated and interactive quality management approach that reflects upon the system as a whole. So ISQM1, you need to now assign responsibility to the system of quality management. So it specifies the response that a firm is required. Let me give you an example. Let's say when it comes to issue of communication, a firm under this approach. Now, if peradventure we issue a wrong opinion or we make mistake in our audit, in our judgment, don't forget that audits, especially when it comes to accounting, is about judgment. It's about judgment. You look at the issue of there's this word we normally use. Wait, I remember. So what I'm trying to say is this: so as a firm, you come up with those. If I make wrong judgment on an issue, for example, impairment testing or ECL, expected credit loss, if I make a mistake or my judgment is wrong, what do I do? So you come up with, because you ought to have assessed the risk. You need to establish what is the risk. If we do this, what could be the consequence to the firm, to the investors, even to the system? So you come up with that, identify it, come up with how to mitigate it when things happen. Now, circumstances when the firm belong to a network, so you need to come up with your own. Under ISQ M1, you don't need to take hook, line, and sinker what the network, which language now, the main firm that you affiliate with are putting on you. So you can determine your own, come up with it, and ensure that it's relevant to what you do and it's applicable to the nature and the size of your firm. Now, so it also requires proper documentation. Like I said, from December 15, 2022, ISQ M1 and 2 and ISA 220 become effective. Now, so as a firm, you must comply with each of the requirements of ISQ M1, whether you are big or small, unless the requirement is not relevant to the firm because of the nature, circumstances of the firm, or its engagement. So if not applicable to you, but in doing that, you need to know, for example, the FRC will start quality review very soon, going from firm to firm. Now, when we get there, our #1 document for your for the quality review of your firm is ISQ M1. Now, we use ISA 220 to assess your engagement, whether you perform your responsibility as is required by the standard, by the ISBA code, ethical standard for the professional. So we do that. Now, the first element, which is firm's risk assessment process. Like I said, the first thing is establish the quality objective. For each of those elements, those 8 elements, you must establish quality objective for each of them. You identify and assess quality risk that could, come as a result of any of those elements. Design and implement responses to them. Because this is one of the advantages of this ISQM1 that made it different from ISQC1. You don't wait until it happens. You come up with what to do. Then identify information indicating need to add or to modify. Peradventure, as you go, after you have designed, you still need to do something more. You come up with it to modify what you have initially. Second element that talks about governance and leadership. Now, it's talking about the organization, your structure in your firm. The commitment must be there. Then the internal culture, you need to design it. You need to have a culture. There's a particular firm, I won't mention the name, in Nigeria. When it comes to culture on that firm, regulators see them as arrogant, but it's not. They are principled. They know their job, and once there's an issue, but unfortunately, of recent, the reverse has been the case. So you come up with your culture and resources planning. You also need to have it. Hello, am I still on?
You are, sir.
Hello?
You are
There's
on.
okay, somebody is now, but as you are doing it, the main objective should be in the public interest.
Mr. Abe, please help us meet that person.
Thank you. Now, the third one is relevant ethical requirements. It's, attitude and ethics behavior. You must have it in your firm. You must design it. It's not just it's not just in paper. It must be what people do, because this and professional judgment, if you don't, handle them carefully, they could impair your independence. Ethical behavior is very key. Now, they don't just, you go to audit a particular organization and they hand over a document to you to confirm certain things. You don't just take it hook, line, and sinker. That's why as an auditor, that professional skepticism must be there. He didn't say you are saying that they are fraudulent. No, but just don't take that document and say, well, this is okay. I'm okay with this. Because let me give you an example. We review a particular company. The CFO was sacked, and they wrote an anonymous letter to us, telling us, in fact, it's an oil servicing company in Port Harcourt, telling us that a particular asset, rig, that the company claimed as part of their PPE, they don't own it. It was rented. In fact, it photocopied the receipt and sent to us. Now, that account was audited and signed by a firm. What happened? It there means that certain procedures were not followed. Certain processes were breached. So as an auditor, you need to be very careful as you do that. The fourth one, acceptance and continuance of clear relationship and specific assignments. Now you need to come up with, yes, we have existing staff, existing clients. What are the procedures? What are these we need to check to continue with them, even though it's still within the number of period, our engagement period, rotation period, like according to this regulation, we have 10 years, we have 15 years for joint audit. Now, within that period, what are those things I must have in place to ensure the continuity of that relationship? Or when do I need to disengage, even though it's still within our tenure as a firm? So it's very important. So the nature and circumstance of their engagement, the client's integrity is very key. It's very key. You've been auditing them. Suddenly, you now realize that some document papers were passed to you that has to do with maybe funding terrorism or a business that you think this is not right. So will you continue with them, or how do you disengage? So you need to have such in place. Now, professional judgment is key. Then financial and operational priority of the firm. Then competence and resource requirements. You've been auditing a particular company or some set of particular company. You are now invited to come and bid for another job. And on getting there is a new area that you have not been doing before. Should you go in there? The answer is maybe yes or no, depends on the competence that you have and the resources that is required. So these are the things that you need to set and put in place, so that as soon as you are called to do a job, you know what you have, you know the resources that are available at your firm or in your firm. Now, the next one is engagement performance. Now, you need to have a clear direction and how to supervise the work. Professional skepticism and judgment, it must be at a very high level. You come up with the procedures, you come up with the risk. If we do not have a proper judgment or professional skepticism and the risk, what are the risks associated with it? We need to put it down. How can we avoid it? And when it happens, how do we really go ourselves out of it? So these are the things that this portion is saying you should have. Now, consultation is very important. Now, within the firm and outside the firm, there was this document called NOCLA, non-compliance with laws and regulations. These are the things that the auditors, well, not only the auditor, practitioner generally, you should have at your disposal to ensure that the information there, it will guide your conduct, it will guide your activity. You know when to report, what to report, and when to say no to certain things. Now, talking about engagement team and responsibility, how do you assign job? Who do you assign it to? For example, if it's just a single firm.
Though I want to connote to really see approval towards that.
Hello, somebody is stopping.
Please go on, sir.
Please unmute yourself and continue. You have about 5 minutes. Mr. Mo, please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself and continue.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, you can continue, sir.
You have about 5 minutes more, please.
Okay, thank you. Oh, no. So the next one is information and communication review. So how do you, communicate internally and externally? You come up with all those necessary policies and procedure. You put them in place. You come up with the risk objective. You set up a risk objective concerning each of those components, and you move. Then the next one is monitoring and remediation. Like I mentioned earlier, you need to monitor whether the system of quality management you have, whether they are working or not. And if they are working, how can I improve on them? If they are not working, what do I do to remedy it? That's what this area is talking about. Now, what are the difficulties that the practitioners may face as they are implementing this? One of these is limited resources. For example, in a one-man firm, probably has 2 or 3 staff. Setting up this thing properly may be difficult. And that is why it's important that merger could be a very good advice for firms so that you don't remain alone and go into extinction. Now, staff is also a problem. The absence of quality internal personnel is also a problem. In fact, there is this syndrome now called JAPA. People are just JAPAing from all angles. It happens even in our organization. Some of our good hands are JAPAing, so it's everywhere. Now, the cost of implementing it is also could be very huge, and that is why it's important for each firms to look at other tips and other means of doing this thing at a very cheap cost, so that you can function very well as a firm. So what are those few tips that are available? The first one is leverage the support provided by professional accounting. This is part of it. I'm glad to be part of this exercise today. This is part of it. And I'm sure, in fact, I think in about 2 or 3 weeks, ICANN is doing it, you know, I think Ikeja district is, so professional bodies, they are doing it. Just ensure that you leverage on those support that they are giving. Then the other one is seek external assistance. Talk to your colleagues. I was with a mechanic here, I think yesterday. He had difficulties and he called another mechanic. And that guy gave him advice and it worked. It's only accountants that you are looking for 10 naira. You are not the one that spend the money. But rather than relating with your colleagues, how do I solve it? You do bottom-up method. You cast figure. You do all manner of, you can be there sleeping in the office without coming out without 20. You are not the one that spend the money. So accountant will need to relate. Relate with regulators. Put out a call to regulators. Regulators are there because they are operators. If there are no operators, they cannot be regulators. So please cultivate the habit of relating with them. Call them. Share your idea with them. I was in a program that was organized by FRC. And one of our past presidents, I was so impressed. I was so impressed with what he said. He participated in that program from beginning to the end. And when we came up the issue of this kind of a thing, he said he talks to a big firm. He will create a scenario. I said, what this happen? What do I do? What can you do? And he gets idea. He gets solution to whatever problem he's going through. I think he's one of our senior men in the profession, and he's doing that. So I think we should do more. Then one other important document that IWSB has produced that can help is a step-by-step that you can take in setting up this ISQ and the system of quality management for your firm. Is there. Is called First Time Implementation Guide. I can send to the people. I mean, I can send it to you so that it can be, send on to the participants. It's very important. It will help you in taking, step-by-step process in setting up your system of quality management. Now, in conclusion, I said implementation to a firm's system of quality management are a continuous process that may evolve. So, and this is the outcome of that. This is the reason for this ISQM1. Things are changing. So, as a firm, don't just be stagnant. Now, standard does not, I think something is covering this. I'm coming, sorry. What? Okay. Now, I said, I'm sorry, just 1 minute. Okay. Now, sorry, please. Now, standard does not provide every matter to be documented by a firm because the nature and complexity of the firm system varies. So don't say because this maybe is too much for me, I'm not going to do. No, you have to come up with your own as it relates to the size and the complexity of your firm. Now, however, the standards serve as a coping mechanism for firms in the face of living quality risk. So with new quality management standards for audits on this horizon, on the horizon, there is an opportunity for firms of all sizes to supercharge their audits and reap significant knock-on benefits that may that go beyond ticking the regulatory box. So it's very important. It's not just, very soon we'll be sending questionnaires to some firms on the quality control review. It's not just ticking the box. Do beyond what the regulator is required. That's what is called ethics. So thank you very much. That's the little thing that I have. The case study that I just mentioned at the objective section is at the back here. And the pronouncement that FRC made in April 12, 2021 for the adoption of ISA in Nigeria is also part of this. So some people may not know that Nigeria has adopted ISA. When we were working on all this regulation, we met with the two main professional bodies, ICANN and ANAN, and we realized that they have standards. NASA, call it different names, but we realized that they are not going at the pace at which the international IFAC is going and reviewing their own. So what is the need of reinventing the wheel? When ICANN has its own, ANAN has its own, FRC supposed to, come with unified something and make sure that the two bodies are working together. And that is why we adopted the ISA, and that is the advert to that effect. Thank you very much. Hello.
Wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Mao. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I am sure for those of us who have joined this session, taking the first lecture vis-a-vis the second, I'm sure we cannot agree with that it's not been a waste of time. It's been an eye-opener, and all this effort has been geared towards protecting the sanctity of financial reports, and by so doing, ensuring that our clients get value for their money, and the shareholders are well protected. Thank you very much. At this point, like we said before, 1 and 2, and let the rapporteur please go ahead with it.
Yeah. Mr. Rocco, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Please let's have the question and answer. You can check in the chat box for people who have put such questions or those who are raising up their hands to ask questions.
Yes. Mr. Tolulope Ogunsiji, I can see your hands up. Please unmute and ask your question, please.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. Please, am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Go
okay,
ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rocco, and every other person. I appreciate everything you have done for us, and I really want to say thank you very much. But like you said something that really caught my attention, because when we're talking about when you're talking about the fact, sorry, the case study that I used as an example, that a company was making a loss, then they employed or they asked somebody, I can't actually say it's verbatim, but he said something like the company was making a loss, then they towards the end of a financial period, they decided to like get someone, an outsider, to invest in the company, to buy like shares in the company. Then afterwards, they made the profit for that period. Then after making the profit for the period, say in January, the following period, they decided to like sell the shares of the person that probably that invested in the company. So you said something about the fact that it wasn't really it wasn't up to standard or something like that. Because you said that like related party transaction or something like that. Like my question is in relation to that. Is it not possible for is it not possible for it to be like an arm's length transaction, even if it is related party? It's not possible for it to be arm's length. If it were to be an arm's length transaction, can we still say it is not up to standard? It is not up to the required standard. Thank you very much.
All right. Can I respond to it?
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Now, what I say is this: a company has been incurring losses for the past 4, 5, 6 years. Now, in a particular year, let's say 2018 or 2017, one of the shareholders of the same company decide to buy an investment that company has in another organization. He bought it, and that person, when it's called, according to ISA 550, it said in the context of fair presentation framework, related party relationship and transaction may cause the financial statement to fail to achieve fair presentation. So what I'm saying is, if you look at the auditor's report could have said, in our view, our opinion, the financial statement give a true and fair view So the standard is saying because a related party who has significant influence, even if the transaction are led to a profit or loss, even if the transaction has led to profit or loss, because of the significance of the related party, the fair presentation framework may not be achieved. So as a result, the auditor saying our report is true and fair, it may not be appropriate at that time under that circumstance. I don't know whether I'm clear now. So the shareholder has a controlling power. He has 62%. So he can influence the sale. Whether at profit or loss, that's a different thing entirely. But the standard says, as long as the profit involved in that transaction, it may constitute a contribution or return of capital or payment of dividends. If it enhances the return of capital of the company for that year, it may not be a fair presentation. That's what the standard is saying. It's a 550.
Sir, please.
Thank you. Mr. Tolu Ogusiji.
Yes, can I talk?
Yeah, okay, go ahead, please. Be fast about it.
Oh, okay, so if you say we cannot present, you cannot say that it is the financial statement is
fairly presented.
Yes, if you cannot say that, so what's the right statement, please?
No, the reality statement is for auditor to include more disclosure. Now, in the era of that's what we call before when we do SAS, that's what we call extraordinary items. I don't know whether if you can still remember that when a significant profit comes in a year, that's not going to reoccur next year. You are expected to give it a line item called extraordinary income. But we don't have that anymore. So what auditor is supposed to do, disclose it in the notes. Do you understand?
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I can see Mr.
Ensure that the auditor may not qualify his report, but ensure that the disclosure requirements they are met in the financial statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mo.
Yes, sir.
I can see Mr. Olubenga.
Okay.
Larry's hand. Please, as many that want to ask questions, can we have your hand up so that we can take decision on this? So, Mr. Benga, you can go ahead with your question.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, let me thank Ilupeju Gbagada for putting this one forward. It's just an eye-opener for many of us who are into private practice. So I want to thank Mr. Mo. You've actually delivered a good presentation, a good lecture. But during the course of your presentation, you made mention of something which I actually want a clarification from you. That was when you were talking about the ISQM2. Yes, you were talking about the quality control. That's it's just for us to know the level of work we have done. That possibly you engage someone else to test the quality of that job, whether it's actually in accordance of the laid down procedures. But what about in a situation, if it is not a one-man business, possibly maybe a firm of a partnership, where you have different partners? Can you actually engage one of the partner, maybe to check what you have done, than you engaging it or from an outsider?
Yeah, no, insider can do it.
Okay.
Insider can, in fact, it's advisable when you, for example, when you have more partners in a firm.
Okay.
Somebody that's knowledgeable about it can do it. It's safer. It does not cost you much because you are working together. But where the competence is not there, then you can engage somebody from outside.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other question? I think, Mr. Chairman, sir, I think we are done with the questions here.
Thank you, sir.
IPC. Hello, Mr. Chairman. Edawumi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. Without wasting much time, but before I want to believe that Mr. Mao will still be around for our third session or to our fourth paper. So I think it's better we just move straight to our third paper right now. Yes, please.
I may not be available.
Mr.
Permit me.
Oh, okay. No problem. We want to appreciate you. Mr. Rocco, please call on one member of the EXCO to kindly appreciate Mr. Mao before we move to the third paper.
Can we have Mr. Shegun Shola? Are you on call? Dr. Fowokon, are you there?
Can you permit me to leave, sir?
All right.
Hello, Nicky Rocco, you called me.
Just go ahead and appreciate our speaker, please.
Oh, okay. I want to say on behalf of the chairman and ESCO and members of Ilupeju Gbagada and District Society, we want to appreciate the chairman. Appreciate the paper presenter, Mr. Mo, and also appreciate Dr. Ayanra in absentia for the well-delivered, well-researched paper that have been given to us, opening our eyes into so many things that we need to know. Especially when it comes to the standards and the regulations. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Please permit me to leave, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You are permitted, Mr. Mao. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate your contribution to this event, and we believe that when professional colleagues, Ilupeju Gbagada Society, and distinguished members of the district, thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for taking time out to learn. Now we'll move straight to the third paper.
All right. The
We'll move
chairman,
straight
sir,
to the third paper. Yes,
is Otuba around?
I should ask you that, sir. We need to check if he's on call so
that we can give, yes, we can just have his keynote address before we move on. Mr. Abe. Mr. Abe. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's good. So at this point, we want to take the keynote. At this point, we want to take the keynote address from our special guest of honor, Otuba. Before that, can the IT play this citation of Otuba? Mrs. Olowo, Madam Olowo, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please go ahead and let's listen to the citation of Otumba Abiola.
Citation. Mr. Abiola, the Ilupeju Gbagada Christian family. Yet finished. Considered to Polytechnic in Laro, Ogun State. National Diploma, HND in Accountancy. He attended the prestigious Babcock University, Ogun State, where he bagged his science degrees. from the Executive Business School, Ikeja, in 2014. Otunbiola is presently completing his doctoral degree accounting.
Please, that citation is not clear. What's happening?
Of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria in 2017. He has served the institute in various committees of council and is presently the third term as its honorary treasurer is of Nigeria. Mr. Abiola believes in charitable works. He is a award. Mr. Abiola is a distinguished professional with passive interest in politics and
You can mute yourself now, please.
thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Can we welcome Otumba Ayodele Oluwatobiloba Abiola for his keynote address? You're welcome, sir.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. The chairman, Gbagada, the IPC, other members of council, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here on this Zoom meeting for this important, intensive competency training of our district members, though this has flown to other members of districts of other districts within ICANN, but I believe the more the merrier. Let me stand on all other existing protocols to say that we thank God for what we have done today. And we thank God for the chairman and the vision he has enshrined in Ilupeju Gbagada to give back to society every time. As a district, we will be able to see that human capital development is paramount to our district. We continue to engage, we continue to train, and we continue to encourage and mentor our members to become the leaders of society in Nigeria. Let me also thank the speakers, the three speakers, for finding out time out of their extremely busy schedule to speak to us. One thing is certain, the day that you fail to continue to learn is the day that you are dead. My charge to every member of our district is that we should continue to listen and enjoy the things being rolled out by leadership. Most importantly, you support leadership by becoming good followers. I have no doubt in my mind that Ilupeju Gbagada will turn out to not only be best in society, but will produce more captains of industry, more leaders that will shape our future. On this note, I want to thank everybody that has listened. And while we'll wait for the third speaker, let's continue to hope that we'll have a better district, a better tomorrow. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our leader.
Thank you very much, Otumba Tobi Abiola, the founding pillar of district Ilupeju Gbagada Society, the model district, and the honorary treasurer of our institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. On this note, like I said, we'll move straight and have the third paper for the day. So I'll hand you over back to Mr. Rokbo Oladapo. to kindly introduce the third speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our third speaker for the day is no other person than Mr. Jamiu Adeyemi Olakison. I don't know, the IT, are you ready this time around to play for us the citation of Mr. Jamiu? Madam Olowo, please. Okay, Mr. Jamiu is a partner at Ernst & Young and the assurance leader for Ernst & Young West Africa. Assurance at EY consists of audit, financial accounting advisory services, climate change and sustainability service, and forensic and integrity service. He's also a partner in the financial service sector of audit. Prior to that,
Mr. Rocco, go on, Mr. Rocco.
And integrity services.
Please help me mute Madam Olowo Diaba. Prior to that, he was a partner in FAS, where he led several IFRS conversion and implementation projects across Nigeria. Until July 2018, he was also the leader of the financial reporting group, DEX in West Africa. And in this capacity, he was responsible for IFRS technical review, technical accounting consultation, and accounting opinion within the firm. With over 19 years experience spanning banking and professional practice, he has been involved in performing a variety of professional services, include internal and external audit, internal control advisory, process improvement project, due diligence review, IFRS conversion, and implementation of new IFRS, transaction accounting, and on-call accounting services. He once lectured at Executive Business School, SWOT Associate, and Center for Law and Business, prior to the founding of Ivory Lake Associate together with other colleagues, where he led the delivery of financial reporting and strategic business reporting paper. He holds BSc in Applied Accounting First Class and HND in Accounting Distinction, a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, associate member of Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Is a member of the following technical group within EY: EMEIA Technical Partner Group, Financial Instruments Working Group, Global IFRS 9 Implementation Forum, Global Fair Value Measurement IFRS 13 Group, Global IFRS 17 Insurance Contract Group. Is a member of the Governing Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, a regular facilitator at ICANN MCPD programs, and an alum of Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University. Ladies and gentlemen, professional colleagues, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jamiu Adeyemi Olakison for his presentation. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether you can hear me very well. Can you please confirm that?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I can see the Honorable Treasurer of our great institute, Mr. Oluwatobi Abiola.
Thank you very much.
I also saw another member of the Governing Council of the Institute, that is Eda Bengawa Omidiji, and all the executive members of the Ilupeju Gbagada district, as well as the participants who are all here today present. Please permit me to the existing protocol. My paper is the last, and oftentimes when a paper is coming last, a whole lot of things go through the mind of the participant, which is for us to bring that to a close as quick as possible so that everybody will be able to go back to the business. I will try not to waste too much of our time. I don't really have much slides. There were two speakers before me that spoke on two different areas that concern our audit profession, and they came from the regulator, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. I can see that I'm the only speaker here from the professional firm, talking specifically this evening on repositioning small and medium practice firms for success and regulatory compliance. Please, again, confirm that you're able to see my screen. I'm not usual.
Very well, very well.
My usual. From where I normally came from. I would like to put off my video to ensure there's no disruption in the network. So I've just done that now. So like I've said before, my topic is actually to talk on repositioning small and medium practice firms for success and regulatory compliance. And in dealing with this, looking at what I've got here in table of contents, I've divided this into 3 different areas. And everything I'm going to talk about this evening will really revolve around these 3 areas. The first one is professional accounting firms, including small and medium practice firms. I will talk about them briefly. I will talk about the characteristics of SMPs. I won't talk about the characteristics of the big firms because I'm sure perhaps many of the practitioners that are beneficiaries of this presentation are likely to be from SMPs. Then I will talk about the key consideration by SMP for success, which is one of the 2 areas that the topic requires that I focus on. And lastly, I will equally talk about key considerations by SMP for regulatory compliance, which is the second area I've been asked to focus on. Going straight to the point, and if I stand back to reflect on what we call professional accounting firms today, in those days, initially, we've used different terms to describe them. Initially, we started by calling them audit firms. Even in those days when we were referring to them as audit firms, they were not just doing audit, but people prefer to call them by that name simply because more of what they do was audit, external audit of the financial statements of companies. I'm sure in those days they were doing other services, rendering other services such as tax advice and similar services. But audit was really predominantly what they were doing in those days, hence the reason for that name. They got to a point that the scope of the services being rendered by these firms increased, and at a point, they started referring to them as accounting firms to recognize the fact that they render a number of accounting services much more than audit. But today, I think the best generic name to use for these firms is professional accounting firms. Simply because we do so many things that we even compete with firms in some areas that are not doing audits. For example, we've got some firms, they are purely strategy firms. They are well-known names in that field. Some of the things we do in these professional firms today, we compete favorably with some of them, given the fact that we equally provide a strategy as a service. We also do several other things. We do technology consulting that sometimes we refer to these firms. You look at them and you want to see whether they are competing with the like of IBM and Microsoft simply because of the level of technology services that we render. What I've done on this slide that we can see here is to group the services into 4. But suffice to say that what I've done here is simply from my own point of view. If another person were to look at it either from my firm or from another firm, the grouping may still be within these 4 areas, but the number of services listed may be more. And even the grouping may be more or less than these 4 that I currently have here. For instance, as professional accounting firms, we do what we call audit, review, assurance, other assurance services, and related services. Audit, I'm sure everybody knows that is not new. Review of financial statements is something that we equally do as well as professional firms. For example, when we do what we call reporting accountants, an auditor will have audited the financial statement of the company in question based on the requirement of SEC and the NGX. Another professional accounting firm will be appointed to do the review of the historical work of the external auditor, and at the end of the day, a reporting accountant's report will be issued. That talks to review. Other assurance services, there are several other services we do which are not necessarily audit. And a good example of that is something that is about to come to effect in Nigeria for listed companies that we refer to as internal control over financial reporting, where the external auditors are expected to issue another report, a limited assurance report that will focus specifically on the internal control over financial reporting. That is a good example of other assurance service that we perform. And also we do what we call related services. A good example of that is what we call agreed upon procedure. In the case of agreed upon procedure, we don't actually express opinion. What we do is actually to issue a report, a fact-finding type of report. All these are within the first bucket that I've highlighted there. The second one is task services. Again, within this pillar, there are several things we do. Accrual review, maybe review of computation of company income tax, as a consultant, as a tax consultant for a client that has decided to outsource that process. Also, we can give tax advice. There are several tax advice that a professional firm could provide, maybe when the transaction is taking place, such as in business combination, in merger, in acquisition, tax advice will be sought to know the best way of dealing with that. Transfer pricing, tax filing, indirect taxes, and several other related services are being provided in these areas as well. When it comes to consulting, there are different things we do, and again, depending on the firm and depending on the name being given to it. Performance improvement is a good example of one of those services we render in this area, where you are looking at a particular organization and you are looking at the processes. Maybe quite a number of people are complaining about customer service, about so many things about that organization. And the management of the company in question, they've decided that let us bring on board professionals to help us look at our internal processes and recommend the best process for us, end to end, in a way that will make it seamless for us to service our clients. That will come under that area. We have technology consulting. I've talked about that. And there are several emerging technologies that the profession, as professional accounting firms as we are known, we provide a number of services in this area. Talk about blockchain, talk about cybersecurity, talk about robotic process automation, talk about, name them all. We do a number of things in this area. And also when it comes to risk consulting, there is an aspect of this that has to do with IT, which could even come in the form of providing support to the audit team. And also, we also have what we call another set of risk people that provide support, especially when it comes to credit risk modeling, and an aspect which relates to impairment. We also have actuarial services. In those days, actuarial consulting firms used to stand alone, but today we are beginning to realize that they are part and parcel of the professional accounting firm. And that is to show that the scope of what we are doing has been significantly expanded. The last one is transaction and strategy. Things we do in this area include advice on merger and acquisition, corporate finance, strategy, and a host of other services that relates to this area. That is to let you know that if you look at these various services we provide, then the best name to use when you are referring to this type of firm is to call them professional accounting firms. Perhaps, maybe you may want to even remove accounting and just call it professional firms, because we do quite a number of things that are not accounting related. If I move to the next slide, there is something here that I would like everybody to pay attention to, and that talks to the mission of professional service firms. Professional service firms may not necessarily be accounting firm. It could be a law firm. It could be a real estate firm. It could be an actuary firm that is standing on its own, that is not part and parcel of the accounting firm. One thing that I'm trying to make known to everybody here is that when it comes to the mission of professional service firm, the mission is the same. Surprisingly, the mission is the same. Why is the mission the same? There are three focus areas. By virtue of the nature of professional service firms. For instance, I have an example here, and the example says, that is an example of a mission statement. It says, to deliver outstanding client service, to provide fulfilling careers and professional satisfaction for our people, and to achieve financial success so that we can reward ourselves and grow. So on the right side of this very slide, I've been able to break this down into 3 S. We have the service, we have the satisfaction, and we have success. When it comes to service, I highlighted words in red in the example of the mission statement I gave there, which is to deliver outstanding client service. We are servicing clients. The service we are providing is actually to specific clients. And at the end of the day, we need to have assurance. We need to be assured that we've been able to service the clients the way they want to be served. If you don't service the client the way the client wants to be served, believe me, you are not likely to have invitation to service that client the next time. And even though you may be rendering a service that you may consider to be a necessary evil, which is an audit. Because oftentimes some people see external audit as a necessary evil, something that companies, except for those that are excluded from having their financial statements subjected to audit under CAMA, you just have to do it. Even at that, it could be seen, that service could be seen as a commodity. And when you don't service that client very well, the possibility is there that you may even be changed before the time that you are supposed to service that client end. The second one is satisfaction. When it comes to professional accounting firms, typically the assets we have are our people, and these people must be satisfied. You must ensure that you meet their expectation. Otherwise, there's no way you can satisfy the client. There's no way you can render outstanding client service. So the people need to be considered very, very important. There are so many things I need to talk about people. When I get to subsequent slides, I will talk about them. The third one is achieving financial success. Now, this talks to the fact that as a firm, you are running a business. Whether we are talking of big firms, whether we are talking of medium-sized firms, whether we are talking of small firms, or a firm that has just one partner, you are running a business. It is actually not a charity. And at the end of the day, you need to show, you need to demonstrate, and you need to satisfy yourself that you've been able to make a profit that will make you to continue to run that as a business. And this talks to our entrepreneurial skill. And I have a lot to say here, especially when it comes to SMP. So take note, the mission of every professional service firm is the same, because the focus is actually on exceptional client service, satisfying the staff, which represent the greatest asset of the firm, and to ensure that you have success so that you'll be able to reward yourself. I'm talking about financial success, which is profitability. Now, let's go to small and medium-sized practices. IFAC, which is a body to which our great institute, ICANN, belongs, actually curates an SMP advisory group. And this SMP advisory group, there's actually a statement that has been made by that body, which I've been able to capture here to really show the importance of SMPs. And the statement goes thus: small and medium-sized practices, SMPs, are critically important part of the accounting profession and constitute the vast majority of accountancy practice worldwide. A strong SMP constituency can contribute to increased choice and competition in the market for professional services. Then the second component part of that statement reads, SMP service an extremely significant segment of the economy, small and medium-sized entities. Research indicates that more than 95% of enterprises across the world are SMEs, accounting for approximately 60% of private sector employment and contributing significantly to countries' gross domestic product. Sorry, some people need to go on mute. Some people need to go on mute, please.
We are actually removing anybody that disturbs us. We are removing them straight.
Okay, thank you. SMEs are crucial to the health, stability, and sustainable economic growth of both developed and developing economies. Now, if you stand back and reflect on these statements, yes, we may have big firms, but sincerely speaking, when we talk about the number of non-big firms, they will constitute majority. And if you look at the number of people they actually employ, they are actually many. And another important point that has been made in this system is in this statement is the fact that we have SMEs, and many of these SMEs are actually serviced by these SMPs. And from what has been said here, the research has shown that 95% of enterprises across the world are SMEs. But in terms of 60% of employment, 60% of employment is actually contributed by these SMEs. So which shows that 60% is not really it's a very significant percentage when it comes to employment generation, which is what is being talked about here. Now, it shows that as much as government pays attention to SMEs, the professional bodies should equally pay attention to SMPs. And for that purpose, that was the reason the IFAC specifically created this SMP advisory group to actually provide advice to IFAC with regards to issues that relate to SMPs. Now, moving to the next slide, let's look at the characteristics of the SMPs. According to that, to IFAC, 3 key characteristics have been highlighted when it comes to SMPs. The first one is the clients they service are mostly SMEs. The second one is they use external sources to supplement limited in-house technical resources. Because oftentimes, and consistent with what has been said by Mr. Amao when he was presenting on ISQM1, oftentimes the resources, the intellectual capacity, the resources needed by these SMPs are usually not present in-house. So they need to get outside to be able to get that. And for that purpose, ICANN equally created a committee that focuses specifically on SMPs. And it was that committee that recently did something on ISQM1 over a period of 4 weeks. And the fourth one is they employ a limited number of professional staff, of course, compared with the big firms that could employ in thousands. And when it comes to SMPs, limited number of professional staff. The other characteristics that have been identified that are not part of the 3 identified by IFAC, and those are the one I have on the right side. This includes, when it comes to the number of partners, oftentimes you may have just 1 partner, or maybe just 2 or 3, just few. Then when it comes to the type of companies they audit, they do not audit accounts of listed companies. And this came out during the recent presentation we did. A number of people actually asked questions in this area to let us know that all this ice cream what we are talking about, they may not necessarily apply to them simply because they believe that they are auditing just SMEs, not listed companies, not complex companies. But nevertheless, you still need to apply or implement ISQM1. The third one is most of their work is the provision of non-assurance services. And again, this is very important. Many of the smaller firms that we have in Nigeria, many of them are not necessarily doing audits. That is understandable. Many of them, what they do is perhaps helping in tax filing, tax advice, and similar things. Many of them are not necessarily doing audits. And let me step back to comment on this. You know, when ICANN issues a license to you to practice, the license being issued by ICANN actually covers or gives you the right to do external audits and similar services such as those other assurance services I mentioned. When you look at on the previous slide where I grouped the activities that the professional accounting firms provide into 4, many of those activities you actually don't need the license of ICANN to do. For instance, if you want to be a strategy firm, or you want to be doing corporate finance, or you want to be doing advising companies on merger and acquisition, you can do that as an accountant without necessarily getting the practice license to do it. But the moment you have to express opinion, which means you have to do audit or provide any other type of opinion that will make users of the financial statement or that document where you are expressing opinion to rely on you, then in that case, you need ICANN license to do so. You need ICANN license to do so. So if we move to the next slide, this is the second focus area of the presentation I have. SMPs. What should be the key considerations for success by SMPs? The first one is the entrepreneurial mindset. We need to recognize the fact that as the owner of a firm, of an accounting firm, you are there to run a business. And that mindset as an entrepreneur, you need to have that mindset. Without that mindset, you may not necessarily even know that you are even making profits, especially if you don't keep record for yourself. If you are a firm, you are the owner of a firm, you don't keep proper record for yourself, you don't get to that point that you need to pay yourself salary, you don't divorce yourself from that business you are running to determine whether or not it's profitable, then at the end of the day, you may not even know you are making profit. So that talks to that. It is the importance of this that makes me to highlight this in red. Another important thing that we can talk about here is the fact that when you are running a business, you need to think beyond today and you need to think of tomorrow. I'm sorry to say this. Many of the smaller firms we have in Nigeria are only thinking of today. And why is that the case? If you look at the big 4 firms, they all started, if you look at their history, they all started as a one-man firm. But because the owners, the founders of those firms, they thought beyond them. They thought of today and they thought of tomorrow. They did not manage those businesses as something that will only be for them and their family. Many of those founders are gone long time ago, but those businesses are still up to here to today. Many of the names you see that we recall those firms by, they are the names of those individuals that were the founding fathers of those firms. So as an entrepreneur, you need to have the mindset of not just thinking about today, but you should be thinking of tomorrow. And if you are doing that, there are so many things. In fact, many of the things I talk about here, they are related to this entrepreneurial mindset. Because I've highlighted a number of things, I won't waste too much time on this. I move to the second one, which is ethics and integrity of partners and staff. In fact, this is something that our profession preaches. As a partner, as a staff, you need to actually follow the professional ethics. When the first speaker spoke, he spoke about AHESBA, which is International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants. That is the body that issues ethics code, ethical code that we follow, and also codes that relate to independence. There are quite a number of things that are contained in what that body has issued that we need to follow. Our professional institute, ICANN, has adopted all those publications or standards issued by those bodies. And we need to follow it. You need to demonstrate that you have integrity as a partner that works in a firm and as a staff that equally works in a firm. Without that, there is no way you can continue in business. Now, the third one talks to business development. Again, this is recognizing the fact that you're in a business. Today you have clients. You need to find a way to keep the clients. You must find a way to keep the clients. Now, beyond the clients you have, I'm sure if you have 10 clients today, are you satisfied with only those 10 clients? You need to continuously think of how to expand. And that was the reason I said earlier that we need to run it as a business. You need to look for more clients. But as you look for more clients, consistent with the requirements of SQM1, you must be concerned about how to service the clients. It will not make any sense for you to win more clients and you will not have the capacity to deliver. And that talks to the quality of the people that you're able to recruit and retain. I know you have to pay for that. So business development is very important. You need to have strategy around that. And every big firm you see, we all have strategy around that. We don't just sit there. We actually do business development because we know, especially when it comes to mandatory audit firm rotation, when you have to rotate after a number of years, usually 10 years in Nigeria, you need to get another client on board. And that talks to the importance of business development. So there must be strategy around that. Customer service is very key. There's a difference between quality work and quality service. There's a difference between quality work and quality service. And if I give a quick example of this, if you take your car to a garage, a mechanic garage or shop, where they attend to you and they're able to fix the whatever fault that the car has, at the end of the day, they may be able to do excellent work for you. But when it comes, so that talks to quality work. But quality service is a whole number of things that are involved around that. When you take that vehicle there, before you take it, maybe you were trying to reach out to the mechanic. You put a call across to that mechanic more than 10 times before you're able to get through. And even when you get through, the person was not apologetic. He wasn't able to call you back. And at the end of the day, you still managed to take your car there. You took the car there, but the way you were accepted and attended to, it wasn't, you didn't have good customer experience. That talks to quality service. Now, even though your car has been serviced well at the end of the day, but the type of service you receive there may not make you to go back to that type of client. So customer service is very, very important, especially when you are dealing with human beings. Then you need to become an expert in your field. I know accountants, we used to say we are jack of all trade and master of none. Things have really gone beyond that. Gone are the days that you can think that you can do everything. Sincerely, there's no way you can do everything. In fact, as an individual, there's no way you can know everything. One of the things that the big firms have, and that is really working for us, is the fact that we specialize. Because we recognize that as an individual, there is a limit to what you can do. There's a limit to what you can do. So that specialization makes you to become an authority that you will be reckoned with when you are talking in an area that actually represent the area where you have specialized. That is not to say that aside from that, your area, you won't have the knowledge of what is happening in the other area, but you need to become an expert. And that means you need to have that knowledge to a particular level. For instance, if I pick IFRS, I pick financial instrument. In this market today, many people refer to themselves as IFRS experts. Within my firm, there is a group that I belong to. We call it Financial Instrument Working Group. We have a meeting 2 hours every week on financial instruments. The issues we discuss there are issues outside this work completely. Things that you will hear and you'll be wondering whether things like this are happening. It is not a local group, it's a global group where people share experience in terms of what is happening in their environment. And you see the level of contribution. And you've not got to that level and you are referring to yourself as an expert. Yes, you are an expert, but you are an expert in your own right. So again, there are some things that will help you to achieve this. I will talk about that still on this slide. Then you need to offer diversified services. You can't just be doing audit alone. No, it's not going to work. If you look at the big firms we have today, they are multidisciplinary firms. We render several services and we have specialists in those areas. And that is why even with the Jackpot syndrome that the previous speaker spoke about, yes, we are feeling the impact. But one thing about the big firms is this: you cannot hold them to ransom because they will always find a way around this. And the fact that we belong to a network, we can move resources around, means that we can always replenish. We are feeling the impact, but it's not only the big firms that are feeling the impact, even the medium and smaller firms are equally feeling the impact. So we need to think of diversified services, not just one service. Critical analytical thinking to solve complex business problems. The clients out there are looking for those type of professionals that can solve complex problems for them. Another important one is investment in research. Sometimes when I look at the medium and smaller firms, there is a huge gap. But you know, sometimes this huge gap arises from the fact that SMPs have not recognized the fact that they need to invest in research. Yes, we can still leverage on ICANN resources. We can leverage on other external resources, but we need to invest on research. In this part of the world, we are policy consumers. We want to wait for some people to finish cooking the beans and bring it for us to eat, or finish cooking the food and bring for us to eat. No, why don't we become the inventors as well? We can do it. We can do it. And I believe we can do it. But sometimes some of the people are the owners of the SMPs. They train with the big firms. They are exposed to resources that some people see them, that the firms invest heavily in. But sometimes when we now have our own firms, we fail to realize that we need to invest in research and development. Many of us, many smaller firms are doing audit today. They don't even know what ISA is. Which international auditing standard says this or says that? If you want to calculate materiality, which auditing standard requires that to be calculated in a particular way? If you want to get audit evidence, which auditing standard requires that? You need to invest. You need to develop yourself. Then, not only yourself as the owners and partners, you need to equally compensate the employees and make sure that you're able to attract and retain them. This is another big problem for SMPs. I know sometimes some of those SMEs are willing to pay, because sometimes you look at a company that is being serviced by as an SMP, maybe it's only paying 200,000 or 500,000 as another fee. But the moment that firm, for a particular reason, it could be that that company wants to raise capital, or that company wants to do something, and the stamp or the name of a big four firm is required. That firm that is paying 500,000 audit fee today will come to a big four firm and come and pay 10 million or more than that tomorrow. The question is, why can't such company pay that type of, or let's say half, if not up to that 10 million, to that smaller firm that was doing the audit? I know you need to be paid well as an SMP for you to be able to pay your staff good salary. But sometimes some are not willing to do so, even though they are making money. There is a saying that a company that pays peanuts ends up with monkey or monkeys. There's no way you can attract and retain good people without necessarily remunerating them well. And you need to embrace technology, different technologies. Yes, big firms have money to invest heavily in technologies, but smaller firms too, you don't necessarily need to wait to have that type of big amount of money to invest heavily in technology. There are so many cloud-based technologies that you can just subscribe to and use for the purpose of performing or rendering the service that you perform. And that was the reason during COVID, it was very seamless for many of us to service our clients remotely. For almost 1 year, for more than 1 year, I never stepped my leg into our office. And we were able to service the client because we have robust technologies to do that. Now, as an SMP, you may not have what it takes to invest in that type of technology, but I'm sure there are some that are made available by the platform, those who have invested in those technologies. You can just subscribe and key into it. And there are different types of technology. And as an accountant, in fact, there's no way there are some others you cannot do without the skill. Even though in doing ICANN, of course, when I did ICANN in those days, we did management information system. And I did another professional body, I did information system. But is that the skill you need to be able to audit a bank? No. You need to get specialists and you need to embrace technology. So what the big firms do is actually to invest. There are some people, the only thing they do is that technology aspect of that audit. But as a firm, you need to actually invest and embrace technology. Adaptability and continuous learning is very important. That was emphasized by the previous speaker, and I'm equally emphasizing it. As an SMP, there is no way you will not become out of date if you don't continuously learn. And when the Honorable Treasurer was talking earlier, he said the day you stop to learn is the day you die. So you need to continuously learn. Networking, this is very, very important. There are different ways we network. Now, for firms that belong to network, you know people outside the country, the jurisdiction where you are based. But if you don't belong to network, there should be a way for you to network with people within your country and even outside to be able to leverage on what is happening in their own environment so that you can learn from that. Recently, we had a global gathering of accountants in India. Quite a number of members of the institute went there. Part of the reason that type of program was being organized was for you to go there and network, see what you can take from that environment, see the best practices happening in those other jurisdictions and see how to bring them and equally apply them. Then you need to continuously curate, refine, optimize your internal workflows of processes. Otherwise, if you remain static, you may discover that you are out of date as an entity. So being able to achieve success as a firm, as an SMP, requires implementation and continuously focusing on these. You need to focus on all these items I've highlighted here. Then, when it comes to key considerations for regulatory compliance, I know we had two speakers, all from FRC. They are the regulators. The fear of the regulator is the beginning of wisdom. FRC regulates this profession together with ICANN. ICANN regulates on one hand, FRC regulates on the other hand. But there are certain considerations we need to actually have in place as professional firms, as SMPs, to equally ensure that we ensure regulatory compliance. For instance, when Dr. Ayara spoke earlier on, he spoke about the 2020 audit regulation. He gave us the summary. That document was issued early in 2021. It's a document you need to obtain as a professional to read and be sure, because it could not have given us everything that was in that document within that short period that he presented. And likewise, what Mr. Amos spoke on, he spoke about SQM1. What starts today is the operation of that SQM1. You must have designed, you must have implemented prior to today. What starts from today is operation, and you operate what you've implemented. Now, why do you need to do all this? You need to comply, because not having those things in place will mean that there is no way you can remain relevant. There's no way you can continuously comply with regulatory requirements. In fact, we need to take, Mr. Amo equally mentioned that they are going to send something across, a kind of survey or checklist across to the firms to complete. We need to take it serious. Because I was reading something recently, and I saw that a particular African country that did something similar. Based on the outcome of that survey, they discovered that many firms were not even ready at all. And what they did was to blacklist those firms. Those firms were blacklisted. So if there's something we need to take very important, it is the implementation of that SQM1. Like I said, it should have been designed, it should have been implemented. It is the operation that starts today. So you need to, as a firm, for you to ensure that you continuously comply with regulatory requirements, you need to search for, recruit, develop, and retain talent. This is not something we joke about. In fact, if you look at the SQM1 that Mr. Amos spoke about, that has 8 components. One of the 8 components is staff, is resources. And one of the elements under that resources is human resources. You can't exist as a firm. You cannot achieve your objective as a firm without having competent people. And there is a risk for that, because the risk is that you may not be able to recruit, develop, and retain competent people. Then that is why you must put control in place to ensure that you are able to achieve that. Without competent people, without talent, in every firm, there's no way you can achieve your objective. The second one is significant investment in research. I've talked about it, but there's no way you can comply with regulatory requirements without investment. You need to invest in yourself as a partner. You need to invest in your people. The accounting standard we were using before we adopted IFRS in a phased approach starting from 2012 was called SAS. Since 2014, SAS should no longer be used. But some people were mentioning to me, although I've not seen such financial statement, that some auditors, they still issue audit report, and they put it there that this financial statement comply with SAS. SAS since when? Since 2014 should have disappeared from the radar in this market. I equally saw a report, another report, recently, a one-page report. A one-page report, audit report. How can an audit report be a one-page report? The question is, that type of auditor, is it up to date? Since 2016, you can't have a one-page audit report in this market. So that is why we need to invest in ourselves. This is something that the white people don't take, they take it serious. And it's because of this lack of, it's happening in our profession and it's happening every other place. And you will have noticed that in Africa, we hardly invent things because we hardly invest in research and development. We can only invent when we research and when we develop. For those involved in audit, review, accounting services, the knowledge of international standards on auditing and IFRS is fundamental. You can never be a good auditor without the knowledge of the two. Being able to see somebody that is on top of the two is rare. Yes, I'm saying that authoritatively. We don't have many people that have that are you see them as
Hello, Mr. Jamiu. Mr. Jamiu, hello? Mr. Abe.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello,
Yes, I think Mr. Olakiso is on call, please.
it's on the call, maybe because of the network.
He said he spent 1 month.
Let us wait for a few seconds. Moderator, can we start getting questions?
Professor Godwin Oyedokun, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please, can we can start taking questions. They can we can start taking questions so that we can round up. This is after
I'm trying to call him on his mobile line, though he's not picking. Okay.
Please.
Question, please. As many that has question, please let's signify. Mr. Abe, please kindly note, he may want to rejoin. is off the call, please. Okay, I'm expecting to see our hands up. I have Mr. Abiodun A. Taiwo, who again asked question. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. Mr. Abiodun A. Taiwo, can we have you, please? I think your background is compromised, or what? Mr. Abiodun, please, we can't hear you. Maybe you need to call from a quiet background.
Why? Maybe I should. Hearing me now?
Okay, go ahead.
It's better now. Okay. Yeah, I discovered that the emphasis has been on audit, those that engage in auditing. But I understand that some of the members are in consulting and advisory, and all emphasis has been on auditing and this and that. So there's, like more emphasis to be placed on other areas as well, like consulting and advisory. Thank you.
Sorry, I got logged out. I just came back. Sorry for that network issue.
You're welcome. Please go ahead,
Thank you.
please.
But the last slide was the one I was talking about before I got logged out, which that is the slide that compares the today accounting skills with the future accounting skill. I hope you were able to see that before I got logged out. Hello?
Please go ahead, sir.
You can reshare it for us to see.
Oh, okay. I need to reconfirm at what point you stopped hearing me. I thought it was the last.
You are doing a recap on people, how the firm should be secure people, train them and retain them.
He's talking about an auditor with one-page report after SAS.
Hey, that was a long time. Oh.
Yeah, you've been out since.
Wow, I didn't know that. This
was the last slide you were on before you were logged out.
Oh, sorry for that. Sorry for that. So I talked about the need for us, for the firms to, okay, so I say search for, recruit and develop, retain talent, significant investment in research and development. For those that are involved in audit, review, and accounting services, you need to have both the knowledge of ISA, which is International Standard on Auditing, and IFRS, I don't know whether you heard me when I talked about that. I equally talked about, for those that are involved in audit review, other assurance services and related services, the need for them to comply with ISQM 1 that is not negotiable. I talked about that. Create a team that focus on quality. That was when I was talking about the fact that aside from the audit team, you need to create a separate team that when the audit team are having technical and contentious issue, they will be able to consult them. They will become the experts that have the highest knowledge. And you have the same thing when it comes to accounting, which is IFRS. I talked about becoming an expert in the chosen field, which is something I've talked about earlier. Create experts in different fields among the staff, because one person cannot do it all. It's not possible, and that is why the big firms are thriving. We have experts that focus on different areas, different sectors, and aside from the fact that you have the knowledge in the particular subject matter, let's say task, let's say audit, you may even become an expert in a particular sector. It could be financial services, it could be oil and gas. There's no way you can compare someone like that has that knowledge in those sectors, in-depth knowledge, with somebody who is just a generalist. They are not comparable. And I emphasize the continuous learning and development, which is something I've talked about earlier. I thought I was talking about this slide, last slide before I left. Please confirm that you are able to hear me so that I can still be sure.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Please, we will hope that you are able to make this one snappy so that
this is the last slide.
All right.
When I talked about this the other time, I didn't go through everything. I said on the left, you've got traditional accounting capabilities, which represent things that we do today as professional accounting firms. But what we have on the right in terms of future accounting roles represent these future skills. But I said then that these skills are no longer skills of the future. They are skills of today, because everything you have on the right here, they are things that we do. Is it data science and analytics? There are some people, we have a unit that the only thing they do for us is data analytics. Data science is big, and there are different areas when it comes to that. Artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, blockchains, professional accounting firms, we play in all these areas here. But the question is, at what point as an SMP are you likely to get this? Let me just tell you, as an individual, as one person, there is no way you can become an expert in all these areas. And that is why when Mr. Amao was talking, he advised that firms should merge. And I said that when I was talking about those big firms that eventually became the big four that we have today. Even some medium-sized firms that are not big four, some of them, they are products of mergers. And you can only become expert, and you can only do well when you combine ideas. As an individual, there is no way you can achieve all this skill, because hardly will you become an expert in all this field. It's not possible. You are servicing clients, you are bringing money. Despite that, you still want to become an expert in all this field. As an individual, it's not possible. And at this note, I want to say thank you very much for the privilege given to me to make this presentation to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olakison. Professional colleagues, please. We have Mr. Biodun that raises one question the other time. Let as many that have questions, please raise their hand so that Mr. Olakison can attend to it. And Mr. Biodun Taiwo, you may wish to repeat your question now. Kike Lomo, please unmute and ask your question, please.
Hello, can I go ahead again?
Okay, go ahead. And after you, Kike Lomo, we ask. All right.
I said,
please make it snappy.
I said much emphasis were laid on auditing. And I understand that some of us are in other consulting and advisory, tax management, financial accounting preparation and the stuff. And not much emphasis were laid on that. But all we've been hearing is the auditing aspect. So that's my question.
Okay, Mr. Jamiu, we note that. Let's Madam Kikelomo ask a question as well, and as many that ask questions so that he can take all of them at a go. Madam Kikelomo, kindly unmute.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Good
Please go
afternoon.
ahead.
Can hear you.
Okay, my name is Kikelomo Adeosun. I quite appreciate the forum and I thank you because it's very exciting. And my question is just what Mr. Jamiu just based on his presentation. I just want to ask. He laid emphasis that we need to have insight into research, that we need to do research in order to be able to create relevance. I'm looking at what I want to ask is for individuals. You said you cannot do much, but in the area of your specialization, when you have chosen, when you try to carry out research, in form of what research will an individual do? That is what I want to ask. What form of research is encouraged for an individual? Hello?
Okay, I've taken note of your question.
Any other question, please? Okay, Mr. Aja Celestine, I think that's the last one, so that I can take the three together. Please.
I want to appreciate Mr. Jamiu for very presentation. And I'm happy that October Abiola is in the house. I want to help us out on it. The SMP cannot do research and development. It's very important. I want ICON to help out research and development and ensure that the SMP partners in this area. Like Daniel said in the private sector, SMP, so SME. So SMP plays a big role in this of ICANN. It's important that we take it very serious, especially the new accounting rules that are coming. It's important that ICANN finds a way to carry the SMP along and ensure that we survive.
The last person, Mr. Aderem Ifagbile. Thereafter, Mr. Jamiu will provide a response to those questions. Mr. Ifagbile, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Okay, yeah. Good evening, all professional colleagues. I want to ask, based on Mr. Jamiu's lecture, he talked about what we need to do as small and medium scale practices. I want to tell you that I'm in practice and I know what it is for us, small and medium scale. It is not funny at all. So my question is this: what can the Big Four or the Big 10 do for small firms for us to be able to at least galvanize ourselves towards making sure that we are doing well in this profession? That's number one. Then what can the regulatory authority also do to make sure that these jobs are not concentrated in the top 4 or top 10 alone, where they can help the younger ones and the smaller ones to grow up, so that we'll be able to comply as expected of us? Because if I'm a one man, all these things that Daniel wrote about, or Mr. Daniel wrote about, it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to be able to do it. Even if I match, if I don't have clients and I don't have resources to be able to implement all this, it's just going to be something that I might not be able to do. So two questions. What can the Big Four, the Big 10 do to encourage smaller firms, whether partnership or individuals, for us to be able to come up? Then what can regulatory authority also do for us for us to be able to also come up and become big tomorrow? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jamiu, please take your response.
Okay, thank you. There's a noise in the background. I don't know whether it's from my side or is. There's a noise in the background. I don't know whether you can hear that. Okay.
I think it's better now.
Yes, it's better now. Okay, so I was actually trying to project this so as to use it in responding to the first question. The first question says, emphasis was more on auditing, but the SMPs, they provide other services, such as tax, advisory, and some other things, other services other than audit. So we did not really emphasize more on that. First, there's something I need to make clear here. And I said it when I was talking about the license that ICANN issues. If you look at these 4 services I group here, ICANN practice license is mainly required to do what you have, the first one. ICANN practice license is mainly required to do the first one. That is one. Then if you look at what FRC, the 2 regulators that you invited today, what they've come to talk about, one, Audit Regulation 2020, and 2, ISQM1, again, they relate to what we have on the first box here, which is the reason I'm showing this. But at the onset, I recognize the fact that the firms we have today, they should be called professional firms because we do much more than audits. The fact remains that when it comes to regulation, when it comes to scrutiny, when it comes to monitoring, it is that first one that we have on the left here that people pay attention to. In fact, that is what the regulators pay attention to. And that was the reason, considering the fact that the other 2 topics that were talked about today, they relate to regulations. So they relate more to audit, review, assurance, and related services. That was the reason I emphasized that. But I recognize here that there are many other services we do. There are many other services we do. There are many other things I talked about on subsequent slides that really demonstrate that for you to be successful as a firm, for you to be successful, many of the things I listed here, you don't, it's not only when you do audits that you do it. Even when you are doing tax, even when you are doing, when what you are doing is bookkeeping and account, you still need to focus on some of these things I talked about here. If you are doing bookkeeping and account, you are not doing audit. You must have the knowledge of IFRS. Otherwise, the book you are going to print for your client will not be appropriate. If you are doing tax, you need to have the knowledge of all the tax laws.
Nuruddin, you are disturbing us.
Nuruddin, you are disturbing us. Clients appropriately. Without that knowledge, there is no way you can do it. So, based on what I demonstrated here, I recognize the fact that SMPs, they venture into so many things, but some of them are not regulated, like the other one I talked about, which is the one I really emphasized. But many of the things I talked about, under what you need to pay attention to succeed, those things are equally relevant to whatever you do. You remember when I talked about the mission of professional firms, I said the focus is actually on 3 areas: to service the clients well, to ensure that you are able to satisfy your employees so that they don't leave you because these are the people you used to serve, regardless of the service you are performing. And the third one is to ensure that you make profit at the end of the day. And that talks to your entrepreneurial skill. There are many things I couldn't talk about when it comes to that entrepreneurial skill, simply because of lack of time. Okay, so that's, I believe it answered the first question. The second one says, what form of research do you need to do as an individual? Okay. One thing I know about the Big Four firms is this: when it comes to audits and when it comes to these other services that are highlighted here, you have resources. In fact, if you pass through a big firm and you cannot really fortify yourself in terms of knowledge, and you leave that place. In fact, what I used to tell people who are leaving the firm is, don't leave this firm. And 2, 3, 4 years along the line, you will regret leaving, because you begin to say to yourself, if you had known, you will have learned about this. If you had known, you will have developed yourself in this area, because you have more than what it takes to develop yourself in all these areas that have been highlighted here. Because some people have been paid, investment is going on for them to develop this thing. But as an individual, as a firm, where you are alone or you have 2 or 3 partners, you need to continuously do this. Now, if it is not an audit, for instance, if you want to provide advice on merger and acquisition, maybe not for big companies, but at the smaller level, you must develop yourself in that area. It's not, when I say research and develop, I'm not talking about the fact that you want to manufacture computer, that you should go and research into that. No. It's about that service, that very service you want to provide. You need to be known. You need to build your personal brand. You need to become an authority in that area. So the research I'm talking about is in that type of area. So it's not actually research to invent, it's a research to develop. Despite the fact that we have international standard on auditing, I can tell you that many of the big four firms, they do many things that they don't know which auditing standard requires that thing to be done. You know why? Because each one of the big four has what we call audit methodology, for instance. That audit methodology, some people they sat down, they build the methodology around all the auditing standards, so that the moment you comply with that auditing methodology, you've complied with all the necessary international standards on auditing. Some people sat down and do that. It is that type of research, investment in knowledge. Let me put it in another way. That is exactly what I was talking about. SMPs should be, I think that third one, I'm not sure I got it very well, but because at that point there was a noise in the background. But what I was able to get there is that a kind of advice to the Institute to ensure that we carry SMPs along and help them in different areas. I don't know whether I got that correctly. I don't know whether I got that correctly.
You're on point.
Okay, so yes, like I said, one of the things, okay, we need to reduce that noise. That noise is coming again. Okay. In the committee that I chair in ICANN, which is called SMP, we have just five terms of reference. One of the things we are supposed to achieve is to have what we call practitioners portals. These practitioner portals will solve some of the problems that the SMPs have. But additional investment is required on the part of the Institute to ensure that this works. And I will explain. That practitioner portal, although it's not new, they've been on it for some time. Our objective in this presidential year, which we end by May next year, is to ensure that that practitioner portal which is a platform through which the practitioners can come in to consult or ask questions. Our objective is to ensure that that portal starts running before the end of this presidential year. A lot has been done, but we still require a lot to be done before we finalize it. Now, when you have any challenge, any question that you want to seek help on, you can pass it through that portal. It could be on task, it could be on merger and acquisition, it could be on audit, it could be on any other thing. The expectation is that within a period of 48 hours, you should be able to get response. That is a very tall order for you to get response within a period of 48 hours. To achieve that, the institute needs to employ people that have specialization in those areas, that will be on the help desk, such that whenever they receive the question, they will quickly put things together. They will share it with some people.
Please unmute.
The noise, we need to do something to that noise. It's like someone is on the road and the person has... Is there a way we can identify that person? Okay.
We've removed him.
So what we need to do in that regard is actually, ICANN needs to have sufficient people on that help desk to ensure that they are able to do thorough job within that short period of time. Make those things available to people that are available externally, that are not working for the institute, that will review and concur, and they will send those things back to you. That is part of what the committee is working on. And we plan to achieve this in this presidential year. Being able to do that is not a small issue, because you need to have sufficient people. The institute needs to invest by employing people who are capable of doing this, who will be there to be able to ensure that your matter is taken care of and responded to within a period of 48 hours. Aside from that, academy that is not just focusing on audits, but that focuses on different areas where SMPs operate, is equally part of what we are looking at, where people can come for the basic, for the intermediate, and for the advanced type of learning, so that when they go back, they become better professionals. That is part of what the institute is doing. But again, that one will involve payment for that, because whoever the institute is using in that regard, the institute needs to pay them as well. But for the practitioner portal, I think that is likely to be. The last question says, what can the Big Four or Big 10 do for small firms? In which areas are they supporting? I know in my firm we are supporting our own capacity. One of the support we are providing, but again, we've not been able to see support, equivalent support on the part of the SMP in this area. For instance, but I can only say within a unit that I had in my firm, which is assurance, we have busy period, which normally runs from January to April. One of the areas we tried to partner with the Institute last year was to identify staff of SMPs who can come and work with us for a period of 6 months. We will pay them. And when we pay them, at the end of that contract, we return them back. And we sign a contract that we are not going to employ them for the next 2 years, so that you can have them back. Whatever knowledge they've gained from our office, they can go back and implement that. We wanted to do that for about 20 firms. Last year, we ended up getting just 4 out of 20. This year, we planned to do that for about 30 firms. There was a delay. I don't want to talk too much on that. At the end of the day, because we've passed the time, because the expectation is that those people should come on board, at the beginning of November so that they can be trained, they can be exposed prior to the busy period during which they will learn, and they will go back to their firms and implement whatever they plan. But unfortunately, this year we are unable to achieve that because there was a kind of a delay on the part of the person that was supposed to facilitate that between us and the SMP. So I know other big firms. I can't speak for other big firms, but I've been able to speak for my firm. Now, the related question is, what is the regulators? What are the regulators doing to ensure they help SMP, especially to share part of the cake so that it won't just be going to the big four? I'm sure there was a time in this market that the idea of joint audit was actually discussed. It was discussed during the time that they were trying to implement or issue the Code of Corporate Governance. But eventually, they said it was realized that that is not something that can be dealt with there, and it was dropped. And I know a committee was set up by the Institute consisting of the representative of the big firms and even the medium-sized firm, where that issue was discussed, I think early this year or last year, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm not part of that committee, I won't be able to speak on what has transpired there. But the Institute is actually trying to do this to ensure that even though they may not want to make joint audit compulsory, but they are saying that when the opportunity comes, the big firms should not say no. Of course, the big firm will not say no. It's actually left to the companies to do. But you see, one thing I need to say is this, to ensure that there is no huge gap between, because when you are doing joint audit, it's jointly and severally, you are both liable. And because you are both liable, you should not allow a gap to exist between the big and the small. And the only way you can bridge that gap are some of the things that I've been talking about here are things. Those are the things that will ensure that you're able to bridge the gap in terms of knowledge, in terms of resources, and in terms of everything you need to do to be able to audit those organizations that we appoint joint audit. So those are my responses to the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olakison Jamiu. We really appreciate you. Professor, sir. Professor, are you on call? Professor Yedokun.
I'm with you. You can go on, please. Please go on.
Kindly, you said? Professor. Okay. At this point, we are giving the vote of thanks. We thank all our speakers. You have done well. You have done justice. We really appreciate you. We shall reach you, send our tokens of appreciation, though not in monetary value, just for disclosure purpose. We thank the chairman. This is yet another achievement recorded today because of the knowledge you have added to your members. Thank our pioneer chairman, IPC, who doubles as the chairman of this session. Thank you very much for your time. We also cannot forget Ali Doyen, who also is the director in Federal Inland Revenue Service and a council member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. Thanks for accepting to be with us today. We thank you for honoring us. And to all the executives that you have labored tirelessly for this success, to ensure that this training happened today, say a very big thank you to you. To all our members, IDGS members, you are wonderful for participating in this training, and others that have joined us from different districts. We say thank you for coming. May the Lord bless us. At this point, we close this section by reciting the ICANN anthem, followed by the national anthem. Are you there, Mr. Abe, please?
What a fount of pleasure, being strong from final race, standing stronger in our holy, building our lives together. Strength of a founding fathers, we are striving to attain all counts and values that we share through all ages be sustained. Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, no like we uphold your
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.